I hear it's raining out, so hopefully everybody will make it in safe. And we will start on the agenda, commissioners, on the adoption of the agenda. So the agenda was sent out earlier and posted. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
It's a motion, second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Now we're on to the item C, which is the approval of the June 23rd, 2022 minutes, also posted and sent out earlier as well. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes? There's been a motion and a second. Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes, the June 23rd minutes are adopted. Next is the recognition of the council. Right before we get to the council members, just a couple of housekeeping notes. So commissioners, as we always come here, we have our favorite staff person that is going to turn on and off your microphone. So you just kind of got to be a little patient, slower for that to happen. We always have issues with our microphones, but oh my, that's serious. All right. So, and yeah, and if everybody could silent their phones, I always try to remind everybody to silent your phones for the meeting. We appreciate y'all doing that. All right, so we're on to the council members, and we take the council members as we see y'all come in. And so first, I saw Councilor Hancock. She was the first smiling face. Hey, Councilor, which numbers? I didn't hear that. 34 and 35. Do you want to speak now, or would you like to just wait on the? They're on the consent. 34 and 35 are on the consent. If it gets pulled off, we'll obviously call on you. So thank you very much, Council Lady. Thank you for coming down. Good to see you. All right, next we saw Council Lady Johnston, my Council Lady. Hello. 16, and let's see, that's also probably going to be on the consent. So do you want to speak now, Council Lady, or? Yeah, come on up. Come on. And so for everybody, it's kind of different than our other setup, so we're going to use the chair for everybody to come and speak, and so welcome, Council Lady. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you, too. So I'm actually sitting in for Russ Pulley today. He is absent, and I did sign on to the bill that's being discussed. So he wrote you guys a letter, and I'm hoping that you all are able to read it so that you get the history behind it and sort of where we're at now. And so I'm not going to go through it, but basically it's just deleting a loophole in our contextual setback as it relates to contextual setbacks. What I did want to point out is that when he filed the bill, he did receive a little bit of negative feedback, and I think he put that into his letter. And so he met with all of those folks, and they did work out a way around it. And basically, it's sort of grandfathering them in. And so that's an amendment that's going to be filed later. It has not been filed yet, so it can't be discussed or heard by you guys. But I just did want to let you know that we're there. And so it basically says that the zoning administrator just codifies that the zoning administrator has the ability to make a decision just based on his right, but then also says that any property purchased on or before July 28th, 2022, and building permits made before October 1st are sort of grandfathered into the existing code. Anything after purchased after the July 28th or a permit filed after October 1st, 2022 would be subject to this new ordinance.
Thank you, Council Lady. Appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
And I believe it's tentatively on the consent agenda.
Yes.
If you're still here for it, if it gets bumped, we'll obviously let you speak. All right. Next, I saw Councilman Swope. There's Councilman Swope. He left.
Oh, it was.
Oh, okay, excellent. All right, John, do we see any other? I haven't seen any other council members. We always want to make sure we have everybody covered. All right, seeing no other council members, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item E, which is items for deferral withdrawal, and I believe Lisa is going to take care of us.
The following items are for deferral or withdrawal. On page 3 of your agenda, item number 1, 2007 SP 048001, Zion Hill SP Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 2, 2018 SP 068003, 0 Buena Vista Pike SP Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. On page 4 of your agenda, item number 3, 2021 SP 091001, Pin Hook Ridge. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th meeting, and I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from that item. Item number 4, 2022 SP 040001, 2635 Gallatin Avenue Dog Daycare. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 5, 2021Z018TX001, a text amendment related to bars and nightclubs. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item number 6A, 2021 HLI 001001, and the associated case 6B, 2022 NL 001001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting, and I would note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from 6A and 6B. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 7, 2022 S129001, 3622 Whites Creek Pike. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item number 8, 2022 S132001, Meadows End. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 9, 2022 S155001, 1708 Carville Avenue. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 10, 2022 S175001, Sheffield Subdivision. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 11, 2022 S180001, Stable Court Concept. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 12 on page 6 of your agenda, 2022 SP 026001, 4046 and 4060 Murfreesboro Pike. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th Planning Commission meeting. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 21, 2022 SP 047001, Pennington Mills SP. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting. Apologies, I skipped past number 17, which is also for deferral. That is on page 7, 2022Z011TX001, text amendment related to compact development. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th Planning Commission meeting. On page 9 of your agenda, item number 32, 2022 S151001, 0 Old Hickory Boulevard. Staff recommendation is to defer to the August 25th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Lisa. And so, Commissioners, the items for deferral withdrawal are the following. And Lisa, make sure I get these, y'all make sure I get these correct. So they're items number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6A, 6B, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17, 21, and 32. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, Lisa, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Lisa indicates that is correct. The microphone's always a problem here.
Yeah.
So, Commissioners, you've heard the items for deferral withdrawal. We'll need a motion. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. And any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and those items are deferred or withdrawn. Now we are on to the consent agenda. In item F, And Lisa, you're going to take us through the consent agenda as well.
Yes, Chair, and before I do that, I did want to note that both the August 25th and September 8th meetings are back at our regular meeting location at the Howard Office Building.
And just as a reminder, the reason why we're here is because it's a voting location now. It's an early voting location. So sometimes we move here, so thank you.
As noticed to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. I'm going to go through the consent items and read off the item number and the case number, and I will ask if there is anyone here in opposition. I have staff members behind me that will let me know if anyone raises their hand in opposition. If there is opposition, then the item will be presented as it appears on the agenda. If there is not, then the item will be placed on the consent agenda. The first item on tentative consent is item number 16, 2022Z009TX001, text amendment related to setbacks. Is there anyone in opposition to item 16? 16 will be on consent. Item number 18, 2021 SP 063001, Charlotte View West. Is there anyone in opposition to item 18? 18 will be on consent. Item number 19, 2022 SP 023001, Autumn Glen. Is there anyone in opposition to item 19? 19 will be on consent. Item 20, 2022 SP 024001, 903 Massman Drive. Is there anyone in opposition to item 20? Yes. Item 20 will be presented. Item number 22, 2022 COD 002001, contextual overlay for Cumberland Gardens. Is there anyone in opposition to item 22? Item 22 will be on consent. Item 23, 2022Z066PR001, a rezoning on Woodfolk Avenue. Is there anyone in opposition to item 23? 23 will be on consent. Item number 24, 2022Z067PR001, a rezoning on 30th Avenue North. Is there anyone in opposition to item 24? 24 will be on consent. Item 25, 2022Z069PR001, a rezoning on 25th Avenue North. Is there anyone in opposition to item 25? Yes. Item 25.
Wait, sorry. Nope. Excuse me, were you? No. Is that in?
I'm going to repeat that. Item 2022Z069PR001. A rezoning on 25th Avenue North. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 25?
No, I think that was a mistake.
Okay, 25 will be on consent. Item number 26, 2022Z072PR001, a rezoning on Ashton Avenue. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 26? 26 will be on consent. Item number 27, 2022 SP 044001, Second and Peabody. Is there anyone in opposition to item 27?
Yes.
27 will be presented. Item number 28, 2022 DTC 036001, 621 Middleton. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 28? 28 will be on consent. Item number 29, 2021 S179001, resub of lot 90, TM Knolls Subdivision. Is there anyone in opposition to item 29? 29 will be on consent. Item number 30, 2021 S180001, resub of lot 91, TM Knolls Subdivision. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 30? Item number 30 will be on consent. Item number 31, 2022 S137001, Belterra. Is there anyone in opposition to item 31? 31 will be on consent. Item number 33, 2022 S160001, the Orville Earhart Subdivision resub of Lot 2. Is there anyone in opposition to item 33? Item 33 will be on consent. Item number 34, 2022 S168001, re-subdivision of Lot 2 and Lot 3, John Thomas Subdivision. Is there anyone in opposition to item 34? 34 will be on consent. And item number 35, 2022 S169001, Bellar Subdivision, resub of Lot 1. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 35? 35 will be on consent. I'm going to read the captions now. We don't, they just all stay. Yeah. Okay, so.
Councilman? Hold on one second. Councilman has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Could we please pull item number 30 for Maxon Avenue? I'm sorry, 29 and 30. Could we pull both of those items? I know that we've received correspondence about them from the council member.
Items 29 and 30?
So sorry. Yes.
Without
Thank you.
objection.
What's going on?
We'll hear those two items. All right, so go ahead, Lisa. Sorry to interrupt.
As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. The following items are on the consent agenda. Starting on page 6, item number 16, 2022Z009TX001. It's a request to amend section 171230 of Title 17 of the Metro Code pertaining to calculation of required street setbacks. Staff recommendation is to approve. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 18, 2021 SP 063001, Charlotte View West. It's a request to rezone from R40 to SP for property located on Charlotte Pike to permit 53 multifamily units. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 19, 2022 SP 023001, Autumn Glen. It's a request to rezone from RS10 to SP for a property located at 2001 Lebanon Pike to permit a mixed-use development. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. On page 8 of your agenda, item number 22, 2022 COD 002001. It's a request to apply a contextual overlay district to various properties located north of Buchanan Street. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 23, 2022Z066PR001. It's a request to rezone from R8 to IWD for property located at 423 Woodfolk Avenue and 410 Haney Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 24, 2022Z067PR001. It's a request to rezone from RS5 to R6A for property located on 30th Avenue North. Staff recommendation is to approve, and I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from that item. Item number 25, 2022Z069PR001. It's a request to rezone from RS5 to R6A for property located at 725 25th Avenue North. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 26, 2022Z072PR001. It's a request to rezone from RS10 to R10 for property located on Ashton Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. On page 9, item number 28, 2022 DTC 036001, 621 Middleton. It's a request for an overall height modification for properties located on Middleton Street. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item number 31, 2022-S137001, Belterra. It's a request for concept plan approval to create 79 lots for property located on Rural Hill Road. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item number 33 on page 10 of your agenda, 2022-S160001, the Orville Earhart Subdivision resub of Lot 2. It's a request for final plat approval to create 3 lots on property located on Smotherman Lane. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, and I would note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from that item. Item number 34, 2022-S168001, the re-subdivision of Lot 2 and Lot 3, John Thomas Subdivision. It's a request for final plat approval to shift lot lines on property located on Hudson Road. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including a variance from Section 425A1A, 425A1D of the subdivision regulations. And item number 35, 2020, and Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from 34. Item number 35, 2022-S169001, Bellar Subdivision resub of Lot 1. It's a request for final plat approval to shift lot lines on properties located on Manise Lane. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including a variance from Section 425A1C and 425A1D of the Metro Subdivision Regulations. Under other business, item number 36, a contract amendment for Matt Shank, a new employment contract for Aaron McGowan, an annual salary adjustment for the director based on executive committee recommendation. Item number 37, bonus height certification memo for Nashville Yards 3A. And I would note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from item 37. Item 38, set the public hearing date for amendments to the subdivision regulations on September 8th, 2022. And item number 42, to accept the director's report.
All right, Commissioners, so the items on the consent agenda, and so there's been a few changes, so we'll go slow, make sure we get all these correct. So the items to be passed on the consent agenda altogether tonight are items number 16, 18, 19, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 31, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 42. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Should be A, B, C, and D.
Let's make sure we're correct.
Oh, yes. When I read the recommendation on 34, that should be variances to A through D, not just A and D.
Thank you for the clarification, Commissioners. There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And thank you, Lisa. I know that was a lot to keep track of, but we appreciate that very much. So now we do have a special request from Commissioners. We have a special request from the Metro Legal Director, Wally Dietz, to address the Commission. And obviously, this is an addition to the agenda. Is there objection? No. Seeing no objection, Director Dietz, come on up. It's a pleasure to have you. We appreciate you coming down. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Wally Dietz, the Law Director for the Metropolitan Government. This is my first time to appear before this commission. It's a pleasure to be here. I am here to speak to item number 27 on your agenda, which is a project you were very familiar with, a project at 2nd and Peabody. And I am not here to speak on the merits of that proposal. But there have been some questions raised about a procedure and litigation. And so there is only one issue that I would like to address. And the question is, should the pending litigation brought by some of the property owners adjacent to this property. Should that litigation cause this commission to delay or postpone its deliberations of item number 27? And it's the position of Metro Legal that it should not. There are 3 individuals who filed a petition for writ of certiorari after the prior decision of this commission on the height adjustment. The trial court upheld this commission's ruling, its decision in that, and it's now before the Court of Appeals. Those same 3 individuals 3 days ago filed a second lawsuit, and that's why I'm here. The second lawsuit names the property owner. It does not name the commission as a defendant. It does not name Metro as a defendant. And there is no motion before the court for a temporary injunction. The complaint does ask for an injunction at some point, but there was no motion filed for a temporary injunction. And so to the extent this comes up in your deliberations later today when you get to item 27, again, I'm not here on the merits, but I am here to say that we believe it would be a mistake to postpone your deliberations of that agenda item based on the simple fact that interested parties have filed a lawsuit. In fact, we think it would be a dangerous precedent for parties to file a lawsuit, not seek an injunction. They had 3 days to do it. They didn't ask for one. Not seek an injunction, not name this commission, not name Metro, but attempt to use that litigation to get a backdoor injunction on your deliberations. So we believe it would not be appropriate to delay your deliberations based on the fact that a new lawsuit was filed 3 days ago. And that's the entirety of my statement.
Thank you, Director. We really appreciate you coming down, and I'm going to take, this will probably be out of order, but I do want to say thank you for allowing Alex, who is a fine attorney, and he's always keeping us out of trouble, and we appreciate you allowing him to help us. So thank you, Director.
It is always good to hear that. Alex is a star. He's a great person and a great attorney. So thank you.
Thanks, Director. If Alex was only here. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. All right, so now we are on to items to be considered. And so, Commissioners, the items, and Lisa, make sure I'm correct, but we have 7 items tonight, and those items to hear are items 13, 14, 15, 20, 27, 29, and 30. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So we're on to item 13. Let me see did we close the public hearing on that? Let's see. The public hearing's still open, right? Public hearing's still open. Have they been closed? Yeah. So, Commissioners, just to clarify, the item number 13 and 14, just 13, the public hearing has been closed. And so we're going to get a refresh. Are we getting a refresher on this, or are we just going to deliberate, Lisa? We just deliberate. Because
I would leave that to you. We're happy to make a presentation. I'm happy to give you a very quick summary of where we are.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for the commissioners.
Jason's working to get the slides open.
Just very quickly, and
yes,
so we kind of
course.
know where we are on the status.
As a reminder, you previously heard this item on April 28th, actually here in this room. At that time, there was a public hearing held, and you all, you heard various concerns from the community, including street extensions, wanting to have more conversations with the developer, some concerns about soils erosion on adjacent property. And so since that time, the applicant has continued to have meetings with the community to try to address some of those concerns. So this item was placed back on your agenda on June 9th. At that time, and staff, with the original recommendation, recommended approval of both of the stub streets to extend as they were planned to do. This was placed back on your agenda on June 9th. Due to a technical issue, we had to defer it. The item was then deferred to June 23rd. Between the 9th and the 23rd, staff had an understanding that there was a consensus of agreement to having only one of the connections. We found out from the council member that there were neighbors in Lakeside Estates that were not in agreement to that. And so the item was deferred again on the 23rd, which finds us here today. Staff is recommending approval of a plan that includes both streets being extended as they were planned to do. At one point, staff had recommended approval of a plan with only one, understanding that there was consensus. There was not, so we have stuck with our original recommendation of both streets being connected.
Thank you, Lisa. And that's helpful just to remind the commissioners where we are. And also, I know that the council member, I think the letter is in front of you, Councilmember Roten has written you. And so now we're on to discussion. Councilman, do you want to start us off?
Thank you, Chair. I won't rehash the deliberation that we had, but it's my understanding from Councilmember Roten that his preference and that of the community is that if there were to be a crash gate or whatnot installed, that it would be at Pierside, which is the street that connects it to the north to Central Pike. His letter references his reasoning for that, which I have been out to that site, and I see his point, which is that the older neighborhood to the north lacks sidewalks, and therefore having a lot connections go down from this neighborhood would increase a traffic burden on a neighborhood street that lacks sidewalks, whereas the alternative, leaving the other connection open, maintains traffic flow within an area that does have sidewalks. And so of the two, it's safer to have that connection, I believe, at Greenwood than at Pierside. So that would be my motion if I had one, is that the district council member has requested to have the crash gate placed at the connection to Pierside, which is to the north.
Thank you, Councilman. Lisa, did you have something to add?
Well, I did want to add maybe a bit of clarification in regards to the placement of crash gates on public streets. As you all will recall, when the subdivision that's immediately adjacent to this one came through a couple of years back in 2019, Hermitage Point, where Greenwood Drive is. When that one came through, there was an existing stub street that stubbed into that one. And when it was approved with a crash gate on a public street. I have been in conversations with NDOT, and they actually were a little bit flummoxed about how that had happened. And so that is just not something that they will do or approve or be okay with, crash gates in the middle of public streets. So if there was any sort of desire to not have both streets connect, there would have to be a permanent dead end situation where fire trucks could turn around, but a crash gate in the middle of a public street is not something that NDOT will support.
Council, anything else, Councilman?
No, like I said, I understand that discussion, but like I said, there had been some confusion, I think, in different iterations of this plan about including a crash gate at Greenwood rather than Pierside. And like I said, from hearing from the council member, his preference, and that seemingly of the community, is that if one were to be placed, that it would be at Pierside. However, I'm always a fan of connectivity myself. So if the commission agrees with NDOT that there should not be one at all, then that is certainly acceptable as well. But the concern would be to closing off Greenwood and leaving Pierside open, because that would create, as I mentioned, a traffic burden on a street that lacks sidewalks of the two.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Since June, I too went to the site and drove around and see current existing development pattern. And I understand Hermitage Point is the newer subdivision with established sidewalks and so forth. And personally, I thought the crash gate on Greenwood in the public street is a thing I've never seen before. I thought it was a kind of interesting situation. So looking at those, and then I drove around to north side of Lakeside Estate, and indeed that is another established old subdivision with no sidewalks, like a local street. So looking at those, and staff recommendation is connect those Greenwood Drive as well as Pierside Drive. So that, to me, I'm sure it will meet our regulation, subdivision regulation 3.9 for the requirement for the street for the connectivity. But to do that, looking at the larger area, so that will send over 1,000 of household potentially to the new connected street through Hermitage Point to Pierside, then Lakewood to Central. So in other words, it's literally connect Hoggett Ford Road to Central. Currently, all the households in the south of Hoggett Ford Drive have only one access point to the east to Davidson Chapel, and then connected to the Central. So probably connectivity is a point that would be a good thing, since it will give another alternative for the traveling. However, my concern is by doing so, I think we are having conflict of subdivision regulation 1.3 and 1.6, purpose and intent of this subdivision, because our subdivision purpose and intent is overall to protect, promote health, safety, and welfare of the persons in jurisdiction. So my thinking is, if we were to send potentially more than 1,000 households into local street without some kind of street improvement, it will increase the danger of risk of accident into established neighborhood. So that's what I'm kind of having really hard time kind of consolidating those two, requirement 3.9 and, subdivision regulation 1.3, purpose and intent. So in that larger point of view, if we cannot safely protect existing neighbor from added traffic, I'm rather inclined to disapprove based on not meeting subdivision regulation 3.9 and conflict with 1.3.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tibbs.
Do we push this? Just start talking? Okay. I did get to listen to the video, by the way, so I know that was a requirement I need to do, but I understood a lot of the deliberation was regarding other things, erosion and other parts of other neighbor concerns, and I'm going to, assume that because of the meetings with the developer, that a lot of those concerns were met, and, I'm sure with as many that was around in the time frame that those were all taken, I assume those were addressed. When I looked at it, like I said, I was going by the deliberation of this group, I'm more inclined to go with staff recommendation for it. I always remember there was this where they didn't have the turnaround, and there was an issue with the fire truck, and so that's why it actually comes to my mind. There was a problem, and so I do understand the extra traffic, but I felt like that is an issue with it. So. At one time, I was okay with just the one, but I believe with staff recommendation being the two and analyzing, I'm more for staff recommendation based off of that deliberation and just understand where we are now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair is going to abstain on this one because she came in late. Chairman?
What?
Chairman Lawson.
Haven't missed the first presentation, but looking at the recording of the hearing and listening to all of the issues, I don't know I can add a whole lot to it other than the fact that I think the staff recommendation is on point and would support the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Clifton?
I know the staff analysis mentioned that erosion had been a problem, but that it was okay now or something. I wasn't completely clear about that. There were some serious concerns raised.
So there were some concerns in the adjoining neighborhood, Magnolia Farms, in relation to some erosion where there were some steep slopes. There are not steep slopes on this property, but the developer, which is the same developer, so I think that was one of the reasons that was discussed, has addressed those issues and is working to resolve the issue that happened in Magnolia Farms, but there's not slopes on this property. So it was an isolated incident in a adjacent development that's not directly impacted on this property.
But still understandable that neighbors hearing that, knowing it's the same developer, are a little bit worried. Well, I've been thinking about the connectivity issue, and of course I'm part of the city where we kind of think connectivity is the way to go. The 18th district has lots of connectivity, and I cannot imagine in some ways that it's not a good thing overall. I mean, the traffic will go somewhere, and people will choose, and it will go on one street or another if we approve this at all, which sounds like, from a planning standpoint, we're moving that direction. So I'm not sure that I can vote against it based on the connectivity issue. I'd be glad to hear a little bit more about that, but I don't believe when we go into a part of town and develop, when someone develops it up to a point, but we're not rebuilding a whole section of the city all at once. I can't imagine that that people wouldn't expect at some time there to be more streets connecting, but that's my understanding.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Haynes?
No comments.
Commissioner Henley?
Just for my clarification, and I hope I didn't miss it. There was no discussion about or voluntary conversation about traffic calming. Understanding that the crash gate or bollards were kind of not an option that would be approved by NDOT.
I mean, I think that you could certainly, if you wanted to, add a condition that the applicant look into potential traffic calming solutions. I think that's a condition that you all have put on projects in the past, and so I think that's certainly something that you could do. I would, if you are going to do that, I would include that they work with NDOT so that they are traffic calming solutions that are acceptable and agreeable to NDOT.
just hearing the concerns that have been expressed in the times that I've been present for the discussion, and then, of course, the letter from the council member, I think that's at least a worthy comment that I would personally like to add to the document.
Yeah, I think you could certainly add that as a condition.
So we're ready for a motion. Is there a motion? Councilman? Oh,
Sorry about that. I would like to move for approval, and I would like to add Commissioners Henley's condition that the applicant work with NDOT to explore traffic calming options that might be appropriate for the connected streets.
all right. So, Commissioner, it's a proper motion. You've heard the motion to approve with traffic calming conditions that they work with NDOT. Is there any other?
Oh,
Commissioner Henley?
second.
Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Nope, one no. Commissioner Johnson is a no. 8 ayes, 1 no. I got to count.
Jessica didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. 7 ayes, 1 no, 1 abstention from the vice chair. Sorry. Thank you guys for always keeping me straight. I appreciate it. All right, yeah, grab the lane. All right, and so now we are on to item 14, which we are ready for this particular item. We're ready for the presentation.
She's recused on this one, too.
Oh, Commissioner Blackshear is still recused on item 14. Logan, you ready?
Yes, thank
All
you,
right.
Chair. My name's Logan Elliott at the Planning Department. I'll be presenting item 14 on tonight's agenda. The request is for concept plan approval to create 79 cluster lots. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions. The approximately 38-acre site located on Tulip Grove Road is zoned RS-15 and is surrounded by other RS-15 zoning. The policy for the site is suburban neighborhood evolving with some conservation policy reflecting environmental features that exist on the site. Because this site is within the T3 suburban transect, the Chapter 3 of the subdivision regulations shall apply, and the application is proposing to utilize the cluster lot option. The site plan proposes 79 single-family lots. The development includes public streets that make connections to existing stub streets. That's 3 total stub street connections that are included with the application, and these stub streets were planned to extend with the future development of this site. The plan also includes 2 stub streets to the south that would set up for potential future connectivity. The plan avoids the environmental features on the sites completely, and the recreational amenities are provided on site as required by the cluster lot option. As a reminder, the cluster lot option does not allow more density than what would typically be allowed under the RS-15 zoning. What it does allow is for a reduction in lot size to create open space and avoid environmental features, and to cluster proposed lots onto areas of the site that are more suitable for development. Looking at the cluster lot option calculations, the proposed plan meets all the criteria required for cluster lots. The 3 requirements on the screen here, the overall site area, the open space, and then the lot yield, or the total number of lots, all complies with the subdivision regulations. The site would be allowed to create 93 lots under the cluster lot option, and 79 are proposed. Additionally, the applicant held a community meeting for this project, and as a result of the meeting, the applicant has identified some impact mitigation features that are being proposed with the plan. These include extra landscaping and buffering standards, a commitment to apply to the Traffic and Parking Commission to reduce the speed limit of a proposed street extension that is tying into one of the stub streets, and a subdivision monument sign at the street connection of Rachel's Ridge Drive. Staff finds the proposed concept plan to comply with the subdivision regulations and the requirements of the Metro Zoning Code for cluster lots. Additionally, the proposed concept plan is consistent with the intent of the suburban neighborhood evolving policy to create and enhance suburban neighborhoods with greater housing choice, improved connectivity, and more creative and innovative and environmentally sensitive development techniques. Therefore, staff recommends approval, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. And this is probably out of order too, but commissioners, I want to point out that we always work really hard for staff development and professional training, and I want to say that Logan has earned his AICP, which is American Institute of Certified Planners certification. I think we should give him a round of applause. All right, and so before we open the public hearing for all audience members, some of you may have not been here before. Before we go through it, the process is this. We'll have the presentation. We always have the presentation like Logan did. The applicant will come up and they get 10 minutes. And then we'll go through folks. We'll first start with folks that are in support of the project. Everybody gets 2 minutes. And the timer is right over here. And please state your name and address. Then the next folks that will come up will be anyone in opposition. Then the applicant will have a rebuttal, then the council member, and then we'll close the public hearing, and then we litigate that. The one thing that we always ask is, just as we do, we treat everybody professionally, and hopefully that is true for you, and we'll have a very professional meeting, official and respectful meeting. So we appreciate everybody coming down here. We want to hear your thoughts. We're all volunteers ourselves, and so we appreciate everybody coming down. And so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And is the applicant in the room? Come on up. So you have 10 minutes to speak, and you can save. Oh yeah, you got to go to the chair. I'm sorry. The chair. Sorry. And the timer is right there. And then you can save 2 minutes out of the 10 for rebuttal or you lose the rebuttal.
We would like to do that. My name is Jim Harrison with CSDG here in Nashville. I'm the project engineer. I just want to speak briefly. Here with me tonight too is Emily Lamb, who is part of our team. She'll kind of close out, and if I miss a couple things, she might add those in. Really just want to kind of talk about what we did as we approached this project and talk about how we looked very closely at the existing zoning on the property, the R15, what we could do with the alternate lot size and open space, what it allowed us to do. Also, we looked very closely at the T3 NE suburban neighborhood evolving policy, which we comply with. First and foremost, want to say that we agree with all staff conditions as they've been laid out, and we really appreciate staff working with us very closely with this, including the neighborhood meeting. And Logan did a great job. Aaron came out and met with the neighbors, and appreciate that cooperation. One of the things I want to talk about is we really carefully studied the environmental areas on this site, the streams. There were a couple of springs. There were just features that we knew we wanted to work around and protect. We looked very closely at that with our environmental consultant and biologist, BDY. As part of that, we went through several different layouts and adjustments, really studied hard to find the best fit for how we could fit these homes in this neighborhood within the existing land features. That was very, very, very important to us. We have requested the cluster option intentionally because that allows us to design the project and stay within the metro guidelines, protecting steep slopes, which you see kind of shaded on the plan. Those are primarily where those are located. Providing the road alignment, providing connectivity, and then also stormwater management, and then also protecting those environmental features. As we went through those layout options, we believe that this plan allowed us to create a plan with open space, tree areas that are protected, buffers on the perimeter, buffers that Logan already mentioned that we've enhanced at specific locations as a result of the neighborhood meeting. And really importantly, too, I want to mention this. We have we're very excited about the home builder, Shell Builders on this. They bring a great product. We're very excited that they're on the team. We know this will be a great neighborhood, and that's pretty much all I've got as the project engineer. I'm going to let Emily go next.
Good evening, afternoon, Commissioners. Emily Lamb. Don't really have a ton to add. As he said, we worked with neighbors and the council member, given some concerns. We met with them and had good meeting with them, and were able to make some adjustments to the plan based on those concerns so we could try to alleviate some of those concerns. And as staff, I would just like to reiterate what staff pointed out. Staff thoroughly examined this, and it's in your staff report, talking about how we meet the zoning code, how we meet the cluster lot provisions, how we meet the general plan with specific to this neighborhood or this area, as well as how we meet the subdivision regulations. So I would just admit that we have, we in a lot of the specific subdivision or zoning regulations that talk about minimums or maximums, we don't exceed or even come close to exceeding maximums. And if there's a minimum, like for example, the 93 lots, we're only just submitting for 79 lots here. So we've got significant wiggle room here within the subdivision regulations. So we very clearly meet the subdivision regulations, the zoning code, and the general plan as staff has outlined. So we would just submit that we have gone above and beyond, meet all the legal requirements, and respectfully request your approval.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate you all coming in. And so you'll have 2 minutes for rebuttal. So now, anyone wishing to speak in support of the project? In support? Yeah, in support. Come on up one at a time. If you support the project, come on up to the chair, and then you'll just take turns. You have 2 minutes. Please state your name and address. Welcome. And the timer's right there. Hopefully you can kind of see it.
Running out of time.
Thank you for this opportunity to get to speak before you.
Oh, hold on, the microphone's.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
I really appreciate this opportunity to get to speak before you. My name is Mary Ann Jordan. My address is 5449 Camelot Road in Brentwood. It's actually Davidson County, Brentwood. And I'm Claudine Williamson's daughter, and she is the property owner at 1053 Tulip Grove Road. Our family has deep roots here. We are what is known as Nashville natives. We all live and work in the area. We always have. And our family actually goes back so far in the Nashville area, in the Middle Tennessee area, that we are actually known as one of Tennessee's first families, which means that we were here before it was ever a state. My dad grew up in East Nashville, and my mom grew up in Old Hickory. Her dad worked for DuPont, and her mom was a lunch lady. My dad owned his own business for 60 years in Donaldson. It was known as Howard's Honda, and started out on Lebanon Road and then moved on to Donaldson Pike. We have deep roots here. In 1968, they bought the property, built a home, and moved out there in 1972. I looked at the picture, the overall, and I saw all the houses around their property. We have a picture of when they bought it. It's just farms. It's just farms. You've got all this farmland and their house right in the middle of it. Over the last 50 years that they've lived there, there has been a lot of change. There's been a lot of growth. Our family, we never complain. This is our first time to ever be at a planning commission meeting. Every neighborhood that came up, my dad just always said that look at what all we have, and what do we have to complain? Let other people look at it too. We always believed. Am I done? Oh my gosh!
You know what they say, time flies when you're having fun.
Well, I think.
But you can finish your thoughts and.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, finish your thought.
Well, all I just want to say is, and I was winding it up, but My dad passed away a year and a half ago, in December 2020. He was from a different era, and he didn't have a 401k plan. He didn't have a pension plan. His property was his retirement plan, and this property is his provision for my mom now that he is gone. And I just want to say this. I mean, this is real personal to us. And that is one of the many reasons. We have a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons that we are in favor of this project, and we would really love to have your support and ask you to approve it. Thank you for the extra time. You've set a bad precedent.
Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. 2 minutes is quick, so I'll try to make it in. So I'm Jewel Jones, and this is kind of surreal because I'm a proud product of MNPS, and I was a teacher in Metro for many years, so thanks for having me. My parents, Albert and Carolyn, and my brothers, we grew up at 1061 Tulip Grove Road since 1978. So our property borders the Williamson property for several acres. So the developers, they approached us many weeks ago with maps, traffic studies, environmental studies, house plans, cost of the development, what those houses would look like, all the information to deal with this project. The developers, they've been super accessible to us. They've been available. They've been forthcoming. They've been super diligent, super upfront with us for this project. I understand that traffic and crime and environmental concerns are a concern to some of our neighbors, but we definitely think that it'll increase our property value and our safety. So although my dad, that you'll hear in just a moment, especially does not think that he's growing older, he is. And my parents and their welfare is the most important priority to my brothers and I. So with that being said, my mom hates living secluded from neighbors. And so we welcome the neighbors. We want the neighbors. We really feel like it's going to bring value and bring safety to my family, and that's a priority. So mom does not want to live alone in her twilight years. She does not want to leave her home site. So we need those eyes and ears around them. So our homeland is a sacred place to my entire family, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, so we trust that the developers will respect the rich history of that property. I encourage you guys to dig to the history, if you haven't, about all that area up there in Tulip Grove Road. So we definitely are in favor of the project, and I have 7 seconds left. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Welcome.
I'm Diane Clark, and I'm here for Mom, and I'm going to try to beat her. As my sister said, our roots run deep, and I can remember when we were 11 years old, we moved from the bustling town of Donaldson to Hermitage, the country, and it has been wonderful. The home and the property have wonderful memories. But after Dad passed away, we began to worry about Mom living there alone and wanted her to move somewhere a little less secluded. So when she made the decision to sell her property, it was very, very important to us that the developer would build a project that we could be proud of. This is our home, and we love it, and we love Hermitage. So she got multiple offers, and in the end, we chose Shell Brothers because of the quality of their homes, the respect for the green space, and we felt like it would be an asset to the neighborhood because we did take the neighbors into consideration. We wanted them to have a quality neighborhood that was coming in. So again, I thank you so much for the time, and I would sincerely appreciate your support for the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
I've only got 14 seconds. There we go.
Now we start over.
My name is Mike Eller. I own the Hermitage Golf Course in Old Hickory. I'm speaking on behalf of the family that I've basically been raised with. My wife and I built the first golf course, the Hermitage, in 1985. We then went to Memphis and rebuilt the golf course there, then went to Greenville, South Carolina, rebuilt one there, came back here and built 18 more holes, and then we added 8 cottages next to the Cleveland Hall residence. So we have gone through every committee, every commission, every agent, state, federal, city, local, and whatever. And the one thing that we did, we wanted to do it right, because if we do it right, then that buys time and it buys quality of your project. Why do I say this about the Hermitage? Because I've known this family and I've known what they've been going through, and I know that they selected a developer that was paying them less for the project, but they had faith in the developer, and that's what it counts for. They've hired all the best people to do the job and do it right, so that the neighbors, the community, and Nashville will be proud of what they do. This is just the kind of family they are. And on top of that, Claudine Williamson bakes the best fried chicken you'll ever eat. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good information to know. Welcome.
He's telling the truth on that one. Hello, I'm Barbara Aller. I'm the other owner of the Hermitage Golf Course, and I appreciate the opportunity to show my support for the Williamson family. I've known the family for 40-plus years. They could not ask for a better family. When this happened, when we lost Howard, it was really hard for all of us, and I know this was a hard decision for them because it's been their homestead, and when they did decide to look around for offers, and they got a lot of offers, and she was coming to me about it, and she showed me this book that the Shell brothers had made. It was a photographic book, and they were calling it the Williamson Homestead, and then they showed different green areas that they planned to do, and I just thought they're keeping the history and the heritage, and that's what they want. They want a beautiful area so that they can be proud of it, because all their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they all live here, and they want them to be able to come back and see what their grandfather and great-grandfather had built. And as far as beautifying the neighborhood, there's no question. It will definitely help the Hermitage area. We live right on the border of Hermitage, Old Hickory. And so I know what it will do. I think what the golf course has done for the area, and I feel like this project will be a definitely big addition for it. Now, I ask for your approval because I think it will definitely be an advantage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Peggy Peeler, and I live at 4104 New Hope Meadow Road, Hermitage. I live less than a mile from Claudine Williamson. She and her husband and her entire family are like family to me, and I have spent a lot of time at this beautiful property that they have, and I know how much they value it and the history and wanting to keep the value of the property and the greenways and the waterways. And I know that when Howard passed and Claudine had to make a decision about living somewhere closer to her family, she really did her homework in looking for the right developer. And I think that Shell Brothers has done an excellent job with what they're proposing for this property. And as a homeowner in a neighborhood very close to hers, I would appreciate a beautiful neighborhood like this that I know that people are going to love to be able to have a home in. And I just hope that you will approve this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Norman Jordan. I live at 5449 Camelot Road in Brentwood, Davidson County, just like my wife, who I'll try to give some time back that she took from you. I got here in 1978 as a freshman in college, and Nashville's changed a lot, but it's changed for the better. My kids, my wife, they get tired of hearing me say it. Nashville's a better town than it used to be, and that's because we had good measured growth. And you know, I get tired of being in the traffic too, but sometimes that's unavoidable. But Nashville's doing it right and it's done it right, and I think a move with this right here would be another good move for Nashville. I really think the Shell brothers will do a great job. Claudine made it very clear when she, after Howard died, that she wanted something that the family could be proud of, and she wanted something that would be good for the neighborhood. And so that's what I think we've got here, and I'd like to ask that you vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Claudine Williamson. I live at 1053 Tulip Grove Road. My husband and I we live there almost to the day 50 years. They've been 50 wonderful years, wonderful. The time came that I needed to move forward. I needed to have a place I felt more comfortable, and just felt it was time. It was just time to do it. When we decided to sell the property, Shell Brothers presented us with a plan that I felt good about. They're good people. They understood me. They understood what I wanted. I wanted a place that I felt my husband would be proud. He worked really hard for that place. I think he would be proud. And they went in a direction that I think is good. I feel good about it. And I would greatly appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hopefully we don't show up and eat your fried chicken.
I promise.
Come on up. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Albert Jones, and I live at 1061 Tulip Grove Road. My family's been living at this residence for 44 years, and majority of our property borders the Williamson property, and we are for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Make sure. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Alan Cook. I reside at 1525 Rachel's Ridge in the Jackson Grove subdivision, to which the Williamson homestead is proposed as a street connection into our neighborhood. The homeowners and residents of the Jackson Grove subdivision ask that any approval of the Williamson Homestead development include a condition that eliminates the connectivity between Williamson Homestead and Jackson's Grove via the proposed stub connection of the minor local street known as Rachel's Ridge. Per the traffic study that has been conducted for Williamson's Homestead, there's an expected increase of over 80 cars per day that will cut through Jackson's Grove, which is just 10% of the 860-plus total cars per day that will be introduced by the Williamson Homestead development. From various statistics, we know that excessive cut-through traffic is a key factor jeopardizing the safety of our neighborhood streets. And as traffic volume increases on neighborhood streets, so does vehicle speed, accident frequency, noise, and even crime. All of these impacts then decrease property value. The inevitable cut-through traffic will be extremely detrimental to the peace and tranquility of our neighborhood without any clear benefit. To explain our stance on that lack of benefit, the distance, as you can see in the map, on the northwest side from Rachel's Ridge to the corner, the intersection of Old Lebanon Dirt Road and Tulip Grove Road is about 360 feet. So that is 0.7 miles, less than 1/10 of a mile, 0.07 miles, excuse me, 7/100ths of a mile. So I asked the question, why encourage cut-through traffic through Jackson's Grove that would ultimately dispense onto the arterial boulevard, Old Lebanon Dirt Road, less than 1/10 of a mile from an established intersection with a traffic light? Furthermore, Rachel's Ridge and all of the roads within Jackson's Grove subdivision are 15 miles per hour, which can't accommodate the ST 252 default street design for Williamson Homestead that is a 30-mile-per-hour zone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I cede my time to him? I'm just wondering.
No,
Okay, all right, that's fine.
unfortunately not. But you can finish his speaking. Or
Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Pam Schmidt, and I want to thank you very much for listening to our concerns. I also want to thank the builder and Logan for meeting with our subdivision participants, basically people that live in our subdivision, to see if we can work something out. We are concerned about the road that connects to Jackson's Grove and to the new subdivision. Why we are concerned is because we are a small subdivision. We have 42 houses, and I have a petition signed by all 42 the houses here. I'll have copies for everybody. But we're a small subdivision, and we don't have a community center. We use our streets as our community center. We meet in our streets. After work, we see how everybody's doing. The kids play in the streets. We walk. We jog. We have movie night where we set up our chairs in the streets. This is our community center. We're also concerned that if we, like he stated, right now we're already having some people try to cut through our subdivision to go around this light that's only just a short distance away. And they're speeding. We know they don't belong there, but they're speeding, and I've almost got hit several times. Our streets are 15 miles per hour. We're connecting to another subdivision that's almost double, or actually is more than double, our streets speed limit. We're concerned about the fact that we have limited sidewalks. We don't have anywhere to walk. We don't have anywhere to play. We don't have anywhere to meet. So we're really concerned about that. Sorry, I had a few notes. And actually, I would say like I said, I know that there's been an increase lately in basically pedestrian versus vehicle accidents throughout the whole country, especially in Davidson County. We did have several kids that almost got hit, so we are concerned about this fact that we don't really have any place to actually commune or to walk or to exercise, and that timer makes me very, very nervous. I'm out of time. Thank you very much for your time. I do have petitions that we have people to
hand
sign.
those to the staff, and we'll get those. Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Anyone else? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Chris Ryan, and I live at 1509 Rachel's Ridge in the Jackson Grove development. I have to admit, I'm not opposed to the development going in. That isn't the issue here. The issue is the connectivity issue of Rachel's Ridge into the development. And there are several issues, and the biggest one is the traffic aspect. Our development is, as Pam mentioned earlier before, is 42 homes, 4 very short streets, 1 stop sign, and 4 cul-de-sacs. That's the extent of this development. If none of you have been there, it'd be worth taking a drive through there to take a look at it and to see what we're talking about. Increasing the traffic through there would be detrimental to everyone who lives in the entire development. There's only one way in, one way out as it exists now, and we kind of like it that way because it does limit the amount of traffic going through our very narrow streets. We only have 2 small sections of sidewalk sidewalk in the entire development. And there's, when you see people out walking their dogs and playing with their kids, quite often they're in the streets. And we're used to that. So bringing this Rachel's Ridge extension through would be a detriment to our not only our lifestyle, but the health and safety of our families as well. We ask that you rule against that extension on there, and we thank you for your help.
Thank you. Anyone else? Welcome.
First of all, please forgive me. I really hate speaking out in public, so just bear with me here. My name is Susan Pierman. Chris Ryan is my husband. We just recently got married and moved across the country to Tennessee. We spent a lot of time looking for a place, and we finally found the perfect place that we just loved. We are in the house that is right next to where the extension is going to be, and I fell in love with all the trees that were around it and the seclusion and the fact that we were the last home on the block with nothing on the other side, nothing behind us, no cars coming past our house. As Commissioner Johnson did mention earlier, there is something about what is the purpose of a subdivision. And the purpose of the one that we live in is it is a community. It is an insulated community. And we all love it that way. It's one of the things we fell in love with. It was a dream that I've had my whole life, to live in a place like that. And I am not opposed in any way to the development. I understand that time goes on and things need to be done, and my heart goes out to the family. I appreciate everything that they've gone through and all the decisions that they've had to make. My one request is that you reconsider that connector. As Alan said, there's not really a logical reason why we have to have it. I know that they always say that when they're making these new subdivisions, they always have the future connector there, and that it was planned that eventually it would become a connector. But in this case, I don't believe it's that time yet. I don't think that you need to have that road there, and I ask that you would find some other alternative to changing that beautiful landscape that you have right there by putting a gash and tearing down all those beautiful trees that are there right now. And that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much. You did great. Thank you for coming. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? All right, rebuttal. 2 minutes.
I'll go very quickly. Just want to kind of point out some things as we went through the design from a factual standpoint. One of the things is that this dead end was created as a permanent dead end, was always intended to extend. And we wanted to be consistent with the Metro policy of making those connections. I will point out one other thing, too. Our traffic engineer who looked at this with us very carefully did not estimate a great amount of traffic going up through the existing neighborhood. In fact, I looked it up. There's like 15 peak hour in the AM trips and 8 p.m. peak hour. Very minimal. Most of our traffic will go straight to the west out towards Tulip Grove Road. But I will point this out, too, that the traffic calming that the roundabout will create near our entrance just south of this connection will be a great traffic calming feature, also a great enhancement from an appearance standpoint. And then lastly, I'll just point out that as part of the neighborhood meeting, one of the things we did is beef up and enhance the landscape buffer that's normally required by adding additional evergreens, adding an identity sign going into the neighborhood, doing really virtually anything we could to help create that transition in a positive way. We want to be a good neighbor, and I just wanted to kind of add those points as clarification.
And I would just like to point out that not only was the Rachel's Ridge Stub Street never intended to be permanently a dead end, but the policy applicable to this specific area, one of the goals is a wide range of road networks and increased connectivity. And so this not only wasn't intended to stay a dead end, but it having this connection specifically meets that policy goal. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't see the council member The council member's not here. All right. Well, seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Vice Chair, do you want to go first?
Sure. Am I on? There was a lot of great stories that we heard about the community and about certainly about this property, and I am curious to know more about the history of this property. However, what we're considering is at this point whether or not it meets the appropriate land use policy and whether it meets the subdivision standards or the cluster lot standards. And I think staff's analysis demonstrates that it clearly meets all of the requirements. It's always hard to introduce connectivity. I know these neighborhoods grow up kind of expecting that the roads are going to remain the way they are. And I know we approve a lot of new subdivisions where you feel like we're kind of putting a road into the middle of nowhere, but this is why we do it, so that eventually we do get this connectivity, so we can get that as this area continues to grow. So I hate for the neighbors that will have to go through this change, but it does sound to me like the developer has taken steps to try to address those concerns. Maybe there are options to look, and I think maybe this was mentioned, considering the speed limits so that the speed limits on the roads are consistent. But I agree with staff's analysis and support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Lawson.
Well, I think the vice chair has very adequately laid it out. We're here to follow not only the regs, but also some of the will of the people of Nashville, which in the end does somewhat guide what our regs are. And I think they certainly have been met in this case and would support staff recommendation.
Commissioner Clifton.
I realize this is very, very hard for both sides. The emotion was obvious, and the sincerity is completely obvious. It is a subdivision. It is not a rezoning. It is appropriately zoned for what they want to do, and the only issue is will we have a road system that connects to some degree? And I would not love it myself at all. If I were there, I would like it to be the way it had been, but I tend to agree with the previous speakers.
Commissioner Haynes.
I agree with staff's analysis, and know this causes angst for the Rachel's Ridge neighbors, but that's why we do this from a long-term planning perspective, so I'll support staff's recommendation.
Tranley.
Well, I've taken a particular interest in the cluster lot, and I actually went and drove through the neighborhood, and I sincerely hope I was not one of the people that was mentioned that was driving too fast. I'm pretty sure I wasn't, because I was going very slowly just to look and understand things, but I did get a sentiment of exactly what was described here today, which was people actively utilizing the street. And for me, when things like this come before the body, and literally the only issue that was brought up was this, and I'm looking at other connectivity options, I understand there's policy and present, but I just look at practicality and how needed is it. I understand we've had plenty of things come before us where it's safety concerns and certain issues, but and again, I am not the expert in that area. We have other departments and agencies that are for that, but it seems to me as if there may be a way for it to be eliminated and still function properly. I don't know if that analysis was already done and then somebody asked and they were overridden. But to me, I'm like most people I have no issue with the plan. I actually like it for the amount of area that it is, and they seem to be very conscientious of certain areas. But my opinion is that I think you can really look at whether or not you need it for the connectivity and the functionality of the area. And of course, would defer if that's already been, that effort's already been extended. But that's my opinion. And again, I understand the sentiment of the community, because when you grow up here in Nashville, you know what it's like to grow up on a cul-de-sac or a dead-end street. I mean, you sentimentally enjoy that feeling. And so for me, if it's not needed, you evaluate if you can avoid making that impact to all 42 people. That was the thing that really hit me. So you drive through there and you see it.
Councilman?
Thank you, Chair. I've been out to visit this part of town quite a bit and getting to know Tulip Grove Road and the very famous old Lebanon Dirt Road and some of those things I hear about on the radio, but have to go out and see because we don't. It's a very different environment than we have in District 6, but certainly it definitely is a growing area. Tulip Grove Road is. I was surprised to see it classified as. For the intensity that it is in the Major and Collector Street Plan, frankly. But that was helpful information in the staff report. You do see a lot of folks walking about the area. It sounds like there will be some road improvements and as well as adding sidewalks on that arterial street, which is beneficial to the community overall. It's very difficult a lot of times for a metro to add sidewalks in places where they don't already exist. And so when we do have these opportunities to add those on a major road as part of a development, that helps us eventually to piece together the sidewalk network that we need. But I think that's a big benefit. Also really was interested to see the plan for the roundabout, which is not something that we can always design around with our street grids. It's something we hear requests a lot in neighborhoods, but they're difficult to actually do, and I think that's a really neat feature for the traffic calming component. I do believe that the connectivity is needed, but I have a lot of empathy for the neighbors. Again, the particular street that a lot of them live on is one that was a stub street that was designed to connect through. I do think that the roundabout will help to reduce cut-through traffic, but more importantly, having internal connectivity in a network allows people to get out and walk and exercise more in a larger area off of those main roads. And to me, that is a benefit of the connectivity that we can build out in suburban neighborhoods like this. So I'm in support of the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I see, every subdivision plan as it comes. The previous subdivision, I talked about connectivity and how new development will do with existing community. And same as this one. The way I see this street connectivity, of course, nobody likes it because they always love the way it is. And I think in my neighborhood, I feel the same way. But sometimes I see if the connectivity makes sense and, this have benefit and negativity, adverse effect. The way I see this connectivity was, of course, it may go through additional traffic into existing Rachel Lane and, those neighborhood. But at the same time, it will give relief for existing neighborhood to come to Tulip Grove instead of going to Old Hickory and then come to Tulip Grove. So in that sense, I see some improvement, and I do appreciate already traffic circle, traffic calming element is incorporated. And this plan is a cluster lot option, but as far as cluster lot option, I think they captured a spirit of cluster lot option, utilizing environment, slope and so forth, and different lot size, and internal street connectivity. So for that, I think staff analysis is spot on. So I am. It's one with a well-done subdivision plan.
Commissioner Tibbs?
One of the comments was about a 30 mile per hour. Is that what's been for this 30 mile per hour, or is that, do you have any information on that?
I don't. I would really have to defer to NDOT. Planning doesn't set speed limits on roads. I know that there are ways that you can go about reducing speed limits, especially on local roads. So I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that, but it's something that we can certainly ask NDOT to look at.
Yeah, I think that could be one good thing, so that they're not, the connectivity makes more sense. That helps it to be more integrated into the communities that they are connecting to. That'll help a lot. I think that'll help for sure. I do agree with staff recommendation, and I'd like to make a motion to accept staff recommendation.
That's a proper motion, but I think, Mr. Tibbs, Commissioner Tibbs, we should include that we urge that the speed limits be 15 miles an hour in the development. Would you be willing to?
Absolutely. I make a motion to approve staff recommendation and would urge to look at reducing the speed limit.
Proper motion.
Second.
We're just urging, Stuart. Commissioner.
I do want to mention, I think what was said was the default speed limit might be 30 miles per hour. You know, I live in a dense area, and, you know, Belmont Boulevard is 25. I mean, we're on a kick to not have speeders, and I think that's great what you brought up, and that we should include that. But I think it would be a travesty if it were actually kept at 30 from everything we've seen. And I don't think it will be. But anyway, thank you for bringing that up. It's great.
Vice Chair?
There is a condition here. Parking to consider reducing the speed of Rachel Ridge.
Wait, hold on. It just is. Oh, go again.
Sorry, no, I'm just reading our third condition, which says that they will submit an application to consider reducing the speed limit of Rachel Ridge Drive and the proposed connection and extension to 15 miles per hour, and the results of this application should be provided to planning prior to approval of the final site plan application. So I guess we have the condition in there.
We have the condition in there.
Any reason why it was just Rachel Ridge, or did I miss? Maybe I should read that.
I don't know. I just found that.
Oh, wait, here's Logan. Commissioner, let's get a...
So that was something that was discussed at the meeting that was held with the applicant and the nearby residents, and the existing speed limit in the Jackson's Grove subdivision is 15 miles per hour, and that's something that was brought up as an idea for this extension. So I talked with NDOT about that, and the standard speed limit in the GSD for residential local streets, I believe, is 30 miles per hour. So there's a process to consider amending that, and that's making an application to the Traffic and Parking Commission, and the applicant has committed to doing that to see if they can reduce the speed limit here consistent with the existing speed limits in Jackson Grove. So there's a process that they've committed to pursue.
Thank you, Logan.
And I think that if you wanted, the language right now is sort of, I think, specific to Rachel's Ridge. I think that if you wanted to expand it to say, look at sort of the entirety to see what's possible, then I think that you could certainly do that.
Commissioner Tibbs?
I was going to say, I'd like to keep the condition as I stated, because that way they would look at it, and they have it on record that is our part of our approval.
Excellent. So proper motion is to adopt the staff's report with an urge for the entire subdivision to be 15 miles an hour. And is there a second? Second. A second. Any other discussion? Commissioner Henley?
Maybe Lisa or Logan can address this, but in my time, I'd kind of asked, had there been any dialogue about that? I know it seems my fellow commissioners believe that it's best as is, but I'm just curious if there was conversation about that, because as the condition reads, it does say connection, and I don't know if that means that there's still further evaluation.
So, no, we have evaluated it with all of the planned roads that were shown as indicated to extending as planned. I think that there was even language when that development to the north was approved, talking about how the roads would eventually extend. And so it's our position as staff that if the roads are planned to extend, that they should, so that we can sort of provide the interconnectivity. And not only that, but it provides a secondary means of emergency access for that subdivision where there is only one currently. And so we did not evaluate an option that did not include those connections as they were intended to connect.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
All right, so we have a proper motion, second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and item number 14 is adopted. So now we are on to item 15. And we'll let, we'll get, if everybody could exit quickly, and we'll move on once we get settled a little bit, just a minute. We haven't had any fisticuffs yet. All right, Seth.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Seth Harrison with the Planning Department. I'll be presenting item number 15. This request is to rezone from IR to RS 3.75. The rezoning affects approximately 0.6 acres located on the south side of Plum Street at the Myatt Drive and Plum Street intersection. The staff recommendation is to disapprove. Currently, the surrounding area consists of R6, IR, and IWD zoning, with uses including single-family residential, 1 and 2 family residential, vacant land, religious institution, and mineral processing. The policy for this site is district industrial, which is intended to maintain existing industrial areas. While there may be a large number of residential and non-industrial uses in the surrounding area, the existing mineral processing plant would not be appropriate in residential areas. Access for the industrial use is limited to Plum Street and Myatt Drive, subjecting new residents to industrial traffic. Based on the surrounding area, the proposed zoning of RS 3.75 would not be consistent with the existing policy on the site, and staff recommendation is to disapprove.
Thank you. And we'll open this item for public hearing. And is the applicant? Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Jeff Hines with Catalyst Design Group. The crux of this issue is really that industrial policy was put in place over this very small neighborhood, back when Nashville Next was adopted. And historically, this has been very small residential lots on this 2-block area. There are residences, approximately 12 or 13, that exist there today. There are 2 churches that exist off Plum Street, and there is the aggregate, limestone aggregate plant at the end of it. So, it's one that I understand staff's position, and we're certainly not arguing that. I think Councilmember Young has written a letter of support for this because I think his vision for the community is that this is best served keeping both uses, and people can choose whether they want to live in that. I always like to speak. I do look at the letters of objection that have been turned in, and they raised issues of crime and traffic were the main 2 things. I think there were 5 or 6 letters. And it's funny because really this is for single-family lots that would be of the size of the homes that are there today. The old 25-foot wide, subdivided lot like you used to have out in the Nations. So, putting more eyes on the street and folks there to observe crime may actually help with that issue. But we certainly understand the position that this does not meet policy, and whatever this board's final decision is, I think it'll end up in Councilmember Young's hands to try and enact the final policy he believes or zoning he believes is appropriate for this area. So we'll reserve time for rebuttal if there are any speakers against this.
Thank you. We'll reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in support? Come on up. In support? All right. Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome, and you have 2 minutes, and state your name and address. We appreciate you coming down.
My name is Billy Ward, and I live at 410 Atlantic Avenue. I have lived down there all my life. I was raised down there. All of my family owns most of the property in that area. There's not but 7 residents down there. And my mother's property backs up to the property that they're talking about. And our family has owned this property for years. My great-grandparents built the house that I'm living in now. And if they rezone this, build these houses in there, then they're going to ruin our property because they're going to want to rezone our property, which is going to lower the value of the property. So I say no to it, because if they build it in there, if y'all approve it and they build it, then they go build Section 10 homes in there. We don't need that. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir, for coming down. Anyone else? Come on up. Welcome.
How y'all doing? My name's Rhonda Warren. My husband and I own 400 through 413 Atlantic Avenue, which backs up to the property at Plum Street. We also own 1320 Plum Street, which is to the side of it. We believe this picture does not do this justice, how small this neighborhood is. It's basically this building, your parking lot, and the next building. And now they're wanting to rezone it, put 5, 6 houses on it. It's just going to overcrowd the neighborhood. They'll have to take a bunch of trees out. The roads are not up to standard to where they would be in a normal neighborhood. The exit and entrance from the neighborhood is beside a repo lot, a motorcycle dealership. Right across the road on Myatt Drive is Waste Management. It's highly trafficked. There's no red light. It's very dangerous to get in and out of that neighborhood for us. There's no turning lane on Myatt Drive to go left when you go out. We just believe that adding anything like this would not help our neighborhood. Also, we don't like the fact that they came in and no one spoke to us about this. No developer spoke to us. We started getting calls from the real estate guy, can I buy your property? Nothing was explained to us, nothing. And that's not the way we work in that small family-oriented neighborhood. It is 7 houses, mostly empty lots. We like our small community just like the other people like their community that was owned before us, and we'd like to try to keep it like that. And I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? All right, seeing none, rebuttal, 2 minutes.
I think the only point I would offer is, of course, this is zoned IR today, so there could be a business use come in and go straight, pull their permits for building on the sites if they combine several of the lots. So you could easily have more than 5 homes would generate in traffic. So understand the concerns. It's one we'll honor whichever way this commission decides on this. Once again, it's a difficult situation of an older area of town that policy was looked at, and, is it the correct policy? There's some of each there right now. So I think the residents you heard from are happy living there, which is what the point would be for any new residents. Nashville needs housing. I think that was the point of going back to the old lot sizes on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think I saw the council member, Councilmember Young. Yeah, he sent a letter. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. How about we start over with Commissioner Blackshear? You want to go first? You're back.
You're thinking about it. All right. Can I speak? Okay, good. I'm scared to touch the microphone. Well, even though I guess there are a lot of things that we can take under consideration from what we heard from the applicant and then the neighbors, it sounds like there's no dispute that this is inconsistent with policy. The applicant seems to acknowledge that, and we know our role obviously is to maintain land policy and vote for items to be consistent with the policy. Oftentimes when we see these types of items brought before us, we'll see a policy change requested in tandem. Was there any discussion about a policy change for this item?
Lisa.
Sorry. Yes, we actually did have that discussion. The applicant talked with our policy team about the potential of a policy change. Seth, can you go back to the policy map? I think it might help as part of this conversation. And so it is sort of a pocketed area of industrial that's located south of some mixed-use corridor along Myatt Drive. And so the properties that are immediately to the east that are also zoned industrial actually have a pretty intense industrial use that accesses from this road. And so when we were talking about should we be changing the policy, we sort of felt like, no, it might not be appropriate given that there are existing industrial uses that would then be sort of pocketed off by themselves with a residential policy separating them from the main road, and the access for the industrial would go through there. And so given that, we didn't think that it was likely appropriate for a policy change. If it was something that you all would consider, you could direct us to do so, to either do a housekeeping amendment, but we thought that given the existing industrial and the location of the actual industrial uses, that made it a little more tricky.
Well, that is really helpful. I mean, it does sound like a policy change in that area would probably be inappropriate from what you just summarized right there. So my view is that we should go with staff's recommendation of disapproval, and it sounds like the applicant has acknowledged that's a likely outcome. And so can you explain, if we vote to disapprove for the neighbors in attendance, what does that mean for the council bill?
Certainly. So typically, for rezoning requests that you all recommend approval of, we automatically send a bill to council for their consideration. For ones, if you recommend disapproval, we don't automatically send those, but the council member can request that it be sent. If it is sent, then with any recommendation of disapproval, it triggers a higher vote threshold. So for zoning changes that have been recommended for approval, it requires 21 votes. If there is a disapprove recommendation, then it requires 27 votes of the 40-member body.
So for the neighbors, you understand like what the procedure is. And obviously, I don't know what the other commissioners would decide, but if we disapprove this bill, it could still be approved at council, just it would need a higher vote count. So my view is that this would be inappropriate for approval, so I would go with staff's recommendation of disapproval.
Thank you. Thank you. Here we go. So with that said, we have a lot of items to go on the calendar, on the agenda, and I just, is there any, how about we try, I always want to make sure the commissioners all can speak, obviously, but is there any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Tibbs, do you have anything else? Let's see if we can, the vice chair has a question. Vice Chair, go ahead.
So I agree with you, and I certainly recognize the concern with the industrial use there. However, directly across the street is residential, right? That's R6 right across the street.
So there is R6 zoning across the street. That's actually primarily a religious institution.
Okay. And the existing usage on those lots include residential?
These are vacant.
They're all vacant?
The ones that are proposed for rezoning.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate the sentiment in the councilman's letter that, we need affordable housing, and we may have to look creatively on where we can get land, and it doesn't seem completely out of place to me. But understanding it would require some sort of a policy change. But I understand, too, this can go forward at the council level, and perhaps that's the decision that will be made. But I guess I just wanted to register that I don't think it's, it doesn't seem completely out of place to me to consider some residential given the surrounding area.
Any other, thank you, Vice Chair. Any other, very good point. Commissioner Henley.
And I'll be brief. I think regardless of how Councilmember Young moves forward, I think we did hear some concerns expressed about the area. I think, again, we owe it to our community to be very conscious of the public realm. And so if this is an area that people who've lived there for generations, likely, at least for a long period of time, considered unsafe, I hope that that's something that's also championed as we go forward with potentially rezoning for more families to live there. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Henley. Any other questions? I want to make sure the commissioners, that I always try to go around. We'll make sure everybody. All right. Is there, Commissioner Blackshear, would you like to make a motion?
I move that we go with staff's recommendation of disapproval.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of the disapproval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that item is disapproved. So, commissioners, this brings us to status check. We've completed 3 items. We have 4 items to go. We've been here for 2 hours. It would be great if we could do one more item and then maybe take a break, because after 2 hours, it's a long time of we take a break. Yeah. So how about if it's if y'all let's try to do one more item. Is there everybody in agreement? Okay, everybody's in agreement. We'll do item number 20. Abby's coming. Thank you for covering. John did great. Yeah, John did great. He's a cool cucumber. Hi, Abby.
Hi. Couple minutes.
No rush. We'll get. I know you got to get it up and running.
Great. Hi, everybody. I am Abby Rickoff, and I am presenting item number 20, which is the Massman Drive SP. This is a request to rezone from RS10 to specific plan zoning to permit 55 multifamily residential units and 15 single-family lots. The site comprises 4 parcels, and it is 7.61 acres. It's located just south of I-40. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. This site is located on the west side of Massman Drive, and which is a collector avenue on the Major and Collector Street plan. And the largest parcel comprises about half the site, and it includes a single-family unit with a heavy tree canopy comprising the front of that parcel, and then the heavy tree canopy kind of continues down to the south on the 3 smaller parcel. The remaining parcels are vacant, and the site fronts Massman, but it also has frontage along Frontage Road, which is a public road that kind of defines the northern boundary and then terminates into a private drive west of the site. The existing zoning is RS10, proposed is SP zoning. The site is shaded in gray, and the surrounding land uses are primarily residential, and so you have, on the west side of Massman, you kind of have an area of larger single-family and vacant parcels, and then on the east side of Massman, you do have some larger single-family parcels, and then it kind of transitions into smaller single-family residential lots to the east. And then as you move down south on Massman, you also have some areas with multifamily development that have previously developed. This site is across from the Massman Heights subdivision in green. This subdivision was recently approved by the commission, and it includes single-family lots and a new public road behind some of those larger single-family parcels on the east side of the road. The SP proposes 15 single-family residential lots and 55 multifamily residential units that are attached in various structures. Lots 1 through 8 are located at the front of the site along Massman Road, and then lots 9 through 15 are located along the southern boundary, spanning the south side of a new public road, which is proposed to connect from Massman Drive to the western property line for future connectivity. A second point of access is also proposed near the northern boundary, where an internal drive will connect to the, provide access to the multifamily units and also to the rear of those lots that front Massman Drive. The attached units are clustered together in several buildings. The exterior-facing units are oriented towards new public streets, and then the interior-facing units are oriented around common open space that's provided in between each grouping of units. There's also a large common area on the north side of the new road, and so those units north of that will front the common open space. Pedestrian connections are provided from the internal sidewalk network to the public streets. The new street will include a sidewalk and planting strip consistent with the local street standard. Massman Drive will be improved per the major and collector street plan requirements, and then frontage road is also indicated to be improved. The SB includes a district plan with 2 districts, and so the multifamily units are in District 1, and so these have a certain set of development standards that they will use, and District 2 includes the single-family lots. So District 1, the maximum height is proposed at 3 stories and 42 feet. District 2 is for the single-family lots, and those include maximum heights of 2 stories and 35 feet. There are also architectural standards that are included in your staff reports. The proposed SP is consistent with the Suburban Neighborhood Evolving Policy because the plan provides a mixture of housing types, providing more housing choice that's appropriate for suburban residential areas. The single-family lots are located on the east side of the site, so that kind of provides a good transition between the multifamily units proposed behind those lots and then the existing single-family units on the east side of Massman Drive. Additionally, the northern access drive will align with that road that was recently approved in the subdivision across the street up here. And then the new east-west street will provide future connectivity to the west once those properties develop. The plan provides a central open space amenity and a connected pedestrian network, which is consistent with the policy, and therefore staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions.
Thank you, Abby. Appreciate that. And so, commissioners, we'll open this item for public hearing. And is the applicant here? Come on up. Welcome again.
I get to go back to back. I would like to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal on this one. I think you're going to hear quite a few folks that view this area of town a little bit differently, but the policy on this is really what's important. It is for T3 and neighborhood evolving, and the site sits on the frontage road of I-40, but effectively Interstate 40 and Massman Drive, which is a collector. And I think this proposal very sensitively transitions from higher buildings along Interstate 40, townhome structures that would be at a lower price point and able to better adjust toward the noise that an interstate generates, and then transitions to single-family homes on the south and to the east. We have worked very diligently with staff on this plan where it did evolve to having all the single-family along Massman front single-family horizontally, front to front of the existing lots on the east side, and the lot widths resemble exactly what was just approved in the Massman Heights subdivision. There had been 2 public meetings on this with a mixture of some folks that wanted to stay, very natural in that area, and some that have been supportive in those meetings. So I think you have both one letter of support and one letter of opposition in the file, but the letter of opposition, and this is true of the neighborhood meeting, the 2 main objectives were traffic on Massman Drive. And one thing that I would say in counter to that is the traffic study that we did really did not call for any needed improvements because it is a collector street. But part of the proposal in the SP is we will be introducing traffic calming measures in accordance with NDOT, finally selecting which ones, but either sign, signal, flashing, you're going 35 in the 30 zone, or speed tables, whichever one can be approved. And that is not something that Metro would ever make it to, out on Massman Drive in the hierarchy of investing public dollars. So we are addressing that issue as part of what was brought up in the neighborhood meetings. And the second thing is, of course, adjusting to have our single-family homes match in character. The architectural standards call for the style, porches to reflect what it's a lot of ranch homes in that area. So we aren't diverging to a very modern style, architectural dialogue on this site. So I think we are being sensitive in those ways. The overall density proposed here is under 10 units to the acre. It's in the mid-9s. And basically, if you know a T3NE supports anything from a low density up to an RM20 zoning. So we are below the midpoint of what is supported by that policy with it. So I think the high points of the plan are it provides a mixed housing choice. We have had neighborhood discussion. We're never going to get 100% folks for, but there are folks supportive of this, and I think you'll hear some speak in favor here behind me. Traffic study did not require any major improvements. We have a collector street, but we are going to be widening those. We are going to be putting sidewalks in, which was one of the comments in the public letter, was that people walk on Massman Drive and this would add more traffic, but actually we're helping to cure that with traffic calming and sidewalks. So I will save the remainder of my time for rebuttal and let others speak. Thank you.
Thank you. And 2 minutes for rebuttal. Does the applicant want to keep going until, are you part of it? Okay, hold on 1 second. We'll get to that. 1 second. All right. So 2 minutes for rebuttal for the applicant. Now we're ready for you. Anyone wishing to speak in support, come on up. Welcome.
Hi.
And please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Ann Wally. My address is 2205 Hampton Avenue. Impressive that y'all are volunteers, so thanks for all that. I didn't know that. So this is acreage that...
Many long nights. Sorry.
Yeah,
Start her time over. As I interrupt. Okay.
So this is acreage that I grew up on, and I am one of the owners along with my 8 brothers and sisters, and don't worry, they're not all going to talk, so we'll get to that break earlier. When we grew up here, it was in the boonies. I don't know if y'all remember, but I-40 wasn't even around then. And so when I was growing up there, I-40 came through the property. And I remember playing in the culvert that went underneath I-40, which is huge, and I could walk through it and go around. So I ran all over this acreage and adjacent acreage. And actually, many of the people that I would run around with and just play all day, it's a different world then, were my dozens of cousins who are here tonight, probably may get up and speak against it. One of our cousins had a family of 10, and another had a family of 7. So there were a lot of action there. But we are at a point where, Nashville, of course, has changed, and we have chosen to we have chosen to develop the property, which is within the zoning as it is right now. Our extended family has chosen not to, and we respect that decision. That's just not right for them now, but it is for us. And so we've embraced the Nashville Next plan. I appreciate the thought that went into that. I remember going to some of the meetings, and we think that that is a good, broad-reaching, way to look at Nashville and our fantastic growth. So it's important to note that this is not a zoning change. We can develop the property. It's a question of how to develop it. And so what we wanted to do was to choose what I think is a beautiful plan with sidewalks and things that can actually improve. Sometimes, oh my gosh, sometimes development can improve it. So I respectfully ask for your approval, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Come on up. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Joanne Crowell, and I live in Creve Hall, 5013 Darlington Drive. And I am the oldest of the 9 children of Pat and Anne Marie McRedmond. Baby sister Ann just finished talking. Anyways, I am in support of this nice development. I think it's going to be a really nice addition. I like the idea of the open area that the kids can play in. I like this idea of the sidewalks. I think it'll be really, really nice, and I'm in support of this, and hopefully y'all will too. Thank you. I used to ride horses around in that area also. Okay, bye.
Thank you. We love that you're from Creve Hall, or I do, anyway. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, my name is Carol Nadler. I live at 3620 Bellwood Avenue. I, too, am one of the 9 owners, and I grew up on this property also. And I think it's very appropriate that this meeting is held in a MNPS room. I used to be a nurse for Metro Nashville Public Schools, and I had a lot of contact with fellow nurses and with a lot of teachers. And I think we can all agree that Nashville has grown tremendously in the last 35, 40 years. And one thing we really need to have a healthy and vibrant city, we need teachers and nurses. And we need teachers and nurses who can afford to live in Davidson County. It is a big problem among our teachers that they cannot afford to live in Davidson County. So I think this builder is proposing to build units that are affordable. They won't be well over $1 million like so many properties in Nashville are now. And I think it would be a good thing for Nashville's middle-class people to have good housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm John Ditto at 4212 Sneed Road in Nashville, and I'm also part of the development team. And I'm just speaking, obviously, in favor of this project. We have worked very hard with the neighbors in the area. We've tried to listen to all the concerns that have been expressed, mostly dealing with traffic. This is a 8-acre parcel of land, and there are just not many 8-acre parcels of land in Nashville. And we could develop it with 10,000 square foot lots and really expensive homes, but We don't feel like that's what Nashville needs. We're not talking about inexpensive housing here or cheap housing. We're talking about quality housing that is accessible to Elm Hill Pike. We're less than 4 miles from downtown Nashville and a mile from the airport. And we just feel like this is a very appropriate use for this property. And, I just want to assure everybody on the panel here and the neighbors, behind me that what we build is going to be of the utmost quality. We're working with the, some of the best architects in Nashville, and I'm a Nashvilleian. I live in Nashville. Everybody in our office is in Nashville, and it's very important to us that this development improve the neighborhood, or at least augment the neighborhood in a positive way. And so I thank y'all for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak in support? I want to make sure we get everybody. All right. Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Come on, if you. Welcome.
Respected members, my name is Maureen Leday. I live at 914 Massman Drive. And I am for progress, definitely for progress in every respect. However, I think that progress should consider the needs of the existing residents. This plan, the developers were very kind with us. We had, I think, a couple of meetings, 2 meetings to discuss our concerns. However, the modified plan is better, but I still would like more, and I'm pretty sure my community would if my community could have gotten here today, but they work for a living. So what I have to say is I would like to see the developer modify yet again the plan to be more considerate of the existing neighborhood. Primarily, the major issues that are adversely affecting the residents are the traffic congestion, the new homeowners, the noise pollution, definitely a change in character of the neighborhood. In order to help us, they did a traffic analysis, and that was with 75 homes or units, and with 75 units, they said only 39 cars would be out on the street at a particular rush hour period. I figure that with 75 units, there's going to be more than 75 vehicles. More than likely, there would be 100. Okay, there are people with 2 vehicles per family. That is an issue with the traffic on Massman Drive. The other issue is the character of the neighborhood. To have 55 condominiums in that very short area, the density is just not appealing to the existing neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
I'm Tom McRedmond, and I live at 907 Massman Drive, which is the property adjacent to the property we're talking about. I prefer that the zoning stay as it is. We would have no objection to developing the property under the present zoning. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up.
My name is Louis McRedmond. I live at 911 Massman Drive, and I'd like to second what my cousin Tom just stated. Don't need to change the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
My name's Tina Alaco, and I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, who I hope will come up here as well. She lives at 915 Massman Drive, and like the seller, she grew up on the property. And I do appreciate that Nashville has grown. I've lived here all my life. I've certainly seen it. But I don't think that dense development has to be inevitable, and I think that taking into consideration protecting green space and what would happen if there was a dense development here. And I've seen that road that has the arrow going to the west, and that west is beautiful green space that connects to Mill Creek, which is a vulnerable waterway that goes through the city right now and is the only home. I'm going to speak on behalf of Oshupi, the Nashville crayfish. So I just see if there's this dense development here, eventually it will start spreading to the west as the family ages. And I want to speak on behalf of not only my family, but also other living things in a city that has changed a lot. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Want to come up and speak? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here to speak on behalf of Ben and Gloria Jones. They live in 935 Massman Drive, which is the property on the other side of the property in question. And one of the main concerns is noise and crime. Ben Jones is 87 years old. He's been living there for 40 years, and he has dementia now. So you're talking about putting 70 units in one space, and there's no buffer zone between, on the diagram, there's only a tree line. So what's to say that kids don't come in the yard, or nobody can vouch for the character of the people that will be moving into these new apartments or new houses. So what about the safety of the elderly? That's one of the things, and water management. Because when it rains, the rain comes from the top of Massman Drive and goes down into the property in question, which is a basin. There's a slight runoff. But if you build it up and make it level, then all of that water will start to stand at 935. And so there was nothing in the previous meetings about water management. And those were the two concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? We'll make sure we get to everybody. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. My name is Anita Sheridan. I live at 915 Massman Drive. My daughter spoke on my behalf earlier, but it is the property I grew up in. I'm now living in the house I grew up in, and across Mill Creek runs through the property, and I want to vote for the Oshupi too, because they are an endangered species, and the only place in the world that they exist is Mill Creek. And this development is only about 200 to 300 yards from Mill Creek, and it's uphill from Mill Creek. And across Mill Creek is a land trust property that brings lots of wildlife. We have foxes, wolves, lots of ducks, lots of birds, lots of snakes, and the property's precious. And I wish you all would come out to see it. I'll personally give you a tour. If you bring your kayaks and the creek's high enough, you can float down it. But it's a precious property for being as close to downtown as it is. We're between downtown and the airport, and that area needs green space. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? I want to make sure we get everybody.
Hello, my name is Linda Orsaga. I live at 919 Massman Drive. I also grew up there, and I think things should be developed. So I'm not against development, but the density is just unbelievable. And it's so close to Mill Creek and the I'd vote for the Oshupee also, because it is an endangered species. And there's lots of wildlife, which is wonderful and bad at sometimes. But I know everything out there is going to get developed. We're fortunate that a lot of the farm we grew up on is in the floodplain, so it won't get developed or shouldn't get developed. And I'm not opposed to development. And I know Nashville's growing. And I just think of how close it is to the creek and the stormwater and what we pay in stormwater fees. And we have to have spaces for the water to go. And asphalt isn't forgiving. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Come on up.
My name is Charlie Sheridan, and I own and help run a business called McGrebman Brothers. We buy and sell fats and oils, pick up oil from restaurants and sell to animal feed mills and biodiesel companies. And we operate at 919 Massman Drive. So we have tractor trailers that are coming in and out there. And Massman Drive, now I saw their traffic study they did, and I kind of disagree with it. It's a lot busier than what their traffic study said. So I'm very concerned with trucks getting in and out. I mean, as of right now, it's hard sometimes getting out on Massman Drive, tractor trailer. So I'm concerned about that. And again, I'm not opposed to development either, but I just think the zoning should stay where it is and not be rezoned. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? All right, rebuttal. 2 minutes.
So share a few final thoughts with you. I wrote down some of the comments here, traffic being one, which is exactly what we heard during our public meetings. But in your own staff assessment here, the difference between the existing zoning built out on this property and the SP as proposed is +9 trips in the AM and +11 trips in the PM peak. More of total daily trips, 156, but we're sitting on a collector road and we're joining Interstate 40 and we are transitioning. Stormwater, we do not drain to the west, we drain toward Interstate 40 and we have stormwater measures in the plan to address that. So, this doesn't run off into Mill Creek directly. Eventually it goes there, but we are running that through treatment measures. And then lastly, we're extending the road to the west because it offers people choices on connectivity. It doesn't mean it's going to develop tomorrow or we're promoting that. But I think good planning looks at how an area would develop, and Abby didn't share the plan, but we looked at how the parcels could develop to the west and how roads could be run, and we're accommodating that with the plan. So I'll offer those final thoughts for you. We would certainly ask you to support it and remind you we are in keeping with the policy on this. The policy does adjust from neighborhood evolving to neighborhood maintenance at Massman Drive. On the east side, it's maintenance. On the west side, it's evolving. But we have adjusted our plan to front that neighborhood maintenance policy with all single-family lots, as you will see in the graphic there. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see the council member. Lisa, did you see the council member's not here? All right, seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Chairman Lawson, you want to go first?
I'm going to pass for now.
All right, Commissioner Clifton.
Well, this was a very interesting presentation, and the comments on both sides were helpful and heartfelt. I didn't think I would have a problem deciding this because I was going to vote with McRedmond's, but it seems like that's not going to be a choice that I can make because what can I say? I understand the concern about growing density close to where people are, and I think it has been the purpose of Nashville Next and a lot of our thinking on the commission now and in the past few years to accommodate more people and to provide options. I thought when it was first presented that it was a pretty interesting combination, and I guess I still think that. I don't blame anyone for having a different opinion because we've all seen things happening in the city that we just didn't think would ever happen. So I'm going to listen to everybody else, but my inclination is to say that this has been pretty well thought through, and I plan to support it at this point.
So in my 11 years on this board, we've never really taken into consideration the Oshupee. So this is a first. In all seriousness, I think that we have a choice of the existing zoning with 28 lots, more expensive housing, or this plan in this policy area that supports more density and more housing at different price points, which is what the city needs. And I think this is an area where we can support the density, and so I'm going to support staff's recommendation.
Can't say it much better than my fellow council member to the left, so I'll pass it on.
Councilmember?
Thank you, Chair. I do think it's an interesting plan where, in that it preserves the single-family lots along Massman, which is a collector and definitely is a busy street, but it does have that very single-family kind of ranch residential feel along the street, and so that's one of the things that I like about the plan is that it does preserve that continuity of that frontage while kind of concealing the density in the rear. I do have a lot of sympathy, I think, for neighbors who've grown up on the land, and there is a lot of land behind it. This is one, I think, where the stub street that goes to the west sort of suggests that there will be more streets going to the west, and that's probably appropriate from a policy standpoint, but I can understand, I think for neighbors that might live over there might be concerned about that there would be future encroachment into that area. As I'm looking at the policy map, when you do get closer to the creek, there is conservation policy in place, so that provides some comfort. Overall, I think it's a very thoughtful plan for development in a neighborhood evolving area along a corridor and in a part of town where we do have a lot of growth going. So I'm inclined to support the staff report, but I will listen to my fellow colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a very interesting property. I mean, I do appreciate, everybody's comment. If I don't hear those comments, I would not know the makeups of those property to the west. That is, of course, neighborhood evolving policy. And then west of that is a large conservation policy. So, planning standpoint, having stub street to the west makes sense. But looking at actual makeup of the, surrounding area, not going into a family feud, the west side of Stub Street actually utilized, seems like probably it will take generation after generation and, maybe never happens. So I think if I see the microscopic of just 2 lots, it seems nice plan, but if I see larger plan, I think this plan can have a little bit more improvement. It is nice to have a single home opposite side of the single family residence of the Massman Drive to the east, but it can be, it would be a little bit larger lot. And multi-housing, that's nice, but it can be reduced the density a little bit too sensitive about the surrounding neighbor. So for that sense, yes, if I see only those 2 lots, maybe meet just neighborhood evolving policy, but it does not mean it's a good policy or a good plan for the entire larger community. So in that sense, I would love to have more discussion, to have a little bit better transition to accommodate surrounding neighbors. So that's how I feel about this plan.
Mr. Tibbs.
I pretty much agree with Commissioner Haynes' assessment. I was trying to think about the existing zoning as well, so that's a good point. I think you would probably go in the opposite direction if you kept it that way. I could live with a little less density, but I'm okay with it. I think it's appropriate with policy, so I'd approve it.
Sure, Blackshear.
This is in regards to the endangered species. Obviously, I know we're a planning body, but what is our role? What do we do? What is the state's role when we're talking about a development in such close proximity to an endangered species?
I don't know that I have an answer to that. I would say that this property does not have any of the conservation on it, and it is not within the floodplain or I'm sorry, the floodway or the floodplain from Mill Creek. So it is outside of that area, but I don't have an answer. We would likely need to talk to Stormwater or maybe the state.
Well, and it may not be something that would impact this development. Some of the things that some of the family had mentioned is that maybe it would encourage development that would impact the species. But to the extent that that is an answer out there that we could have, I would be interested to know what our, so I thought you had an answer for me, Lucy, okay.
Acknowledging your comment.
I would be interested to know what our role could be in relation to the protection of endangered species. That's not something we hear every day about development being so close to a species that's, I think you said, only found there. So, I do agree with Commissioner Tibbs and Commissioner Haynes' assessment regarding the property. I'm certainly empathetic to the neighbors, the family members who live in surrounding areas. I would feel the exact same way if it was my neighborhood. Looking from, an impartial view, though, I see the benefits of having housing that has different price points. There is the single family home frontage to hopefully, address some of the concerns about having such density in the area. And I do think there are ways to mitigate the traffic concerns. So I'm interested to hear what Commissioner Farr has to say, but I think I would be in favor of staff's recommendation.
Vice Chair?
I don't think I have much to add to what everyone else has said at this point. I do agree. I think we've seen a lot of plans come before us that don't have this kind of thoughtful transition, and I think that they've done a really good job of trying to figure out how to integrate this into the neighborhood. I think we always have this challenge with neighborhood evolving policy areas, especially when they abut neighborhood maintenance. It's always a tough transition. So like others have said, I'm sensitive to the concerns of the existing residents in that area. But I think I am in favor of staff support, and unless anyone else has a comment, I'm happy to make a motion to support staff's recommendation.
Let's make sure the chairman.
Go for it.
Okay.
All right. All right.
I will make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
For approval. Thank you, Vice Chair. A proper motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Abstain.
One abstain. So 9 ayes, 1 abstention. All right, so it's 6:40 almost, and we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, allow the commissioners and everyone else to freshen up, and we'll come back in about 10, 15 minutes. We'll get started again. I appreciate everybody's patience and allowing us to take a break, a restroom break, and refresh ourselves for a couple more hours, I'm sure. All right, so we have 3 items left. We have items 27, 29, and 30. And so we are on item number 27. And Logan's back up for the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. My name is Logan Elliott with the Planning Department. I'll be presenting item 27 on tonight's agenda. The request is to rezone to specific plan to permit 2 multifamily residential buildings and 1 hotel building. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. The subject site is within the Lafayette subdistrict of the downtown code and is adjacent to the Sobro subdistrict, being immediately to the north of the subject site. The 2.12 acre site includes the full block encompassed by 2nd Avenue South, 3rd Avenue South, and Peabody Street and Lee Avenue as the local streets. 3rd Avenue South is an Collector Avenue in the Major and Collector Street Plan, and 2nd Avenue is an arterial boulevard in the Major and Collector Street Plan. The site currently contains a variety of non-residential uses, with some vacant land, and the surrounding area contains a variety of residential, non-residential, and civic land uses. The policy for the site is T6 Downtown Neighborhood, which intends to maintain and create diverse downtown neighborhoods that are compatible with the general character of the surrounding historic development and the envisioned character of the new downtown development, while fostering appropriate transitions from less intense area of downtown neighborhoods to the more intense downtown core policy area that exists directly to the north of this development. And the T6 downtown neighborhood areas typically contain high-density residential and mixed-use development. The subject project here proposes a 32-story, a 36-story, and an 18-story building containing 830 residential units, 286 hotel rooms, and 16,000 square feet of retail space with underground parking for close to 1,000 vehicles. The ground floors of the 3 buildings are lined with active retail restaurant uses and pedestrian entrances. The primary drop-off area and lobby access for the hotel use is located along 3rd Avenue South, with entry to the below-grade parking also available at that drop-off location. An additional garage entry, exit, and entry point is located on Peabody Street, and all loading and service operations will be below grade with this project. The project includes 1.37 acres of publicly accessible open space. This open space borders the full edge of 2nd Avenue South, with additional open space and pathways located between the buildings, as well as in the space that's created through the proposed realignment of Lee Avenue. The plans include elevations that demonstrate the massing, architecture, and building heights. Staff finds looking at the factors for considering additional building height in the downtown neighborhood policy. The policy includes a number of factors for considering building height. When staff analyzed the proposed building height, we looked at these and found the majority of the factors for considering additional building height to be present in this case. These include proximity to other policy areas and the role of the building in transitioning between policies, the planned height of surrounding buildings and the impact on adjacent historic structures, contribution that this building makes to the overall fabric of the neighborhood in terms of creating pedestrian-friendly streetscapes, plazas, and open space, public art, and innovative stormwater management techniques, and finally, the relationship of the height of the building to the width of the streets and sidewalks. With wider streets and sidewalks, generally an ability to provide light and air between buildings and in the public realm of streets, sidewalks, internal walkways, and open spaces. The downtown community plan also describes the role of the buildings. The staff found the proposed plan to comply with the other elements of the downtown code policy. A big component of the downtown neighborhood policy is its role in transitioning to surrounding neighborhoods, with this site's location being directly adjacent to the Sobro subdistrict, where unlimited building heights are permitted if certain conditions are satisfied. Staff finds that the proposed development provides an adequate transition in this location, and at your seats there should be a memo that staff prepared and explains modified condition language. Conditions 1, 2, and 8, I believe, are being modified after discussions with the applicant. Potential conflicts were identified that could have been an issue with the final site plan review process, and staff is supportive of those modified condition languages. So with those modified conditions, staff recommends approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions, and that completes my presentation.
Thank you, Logan. We'll open this item for public hearing. Is the applicant in the room? Yes. See the applicant?
Good afternoon. My name is Woods Drinkwater. I'm an attorney. I represent the applicant. You're going to hear from me for just a short minute or so, and then you're going to hear from my colleagues. We want to take the opportunity to tell you why we're pursuing an SP at this time. We previously sought and were granted an administrative overall height modification. After you granted that overall height modification, that decision was appealed to the courts. The Chancery Court affirmed that decision and is now pending before the Court of Appeals. We have a briefing scheduled right now. The oral argument is set on November 2nd. We do not expect a decision before the new year. Every day of delay this development is delayed, the developer incurs $19,945. So far, that is a total of $6.4 million in just sunk costs that it consists of development management fees, staffing costs, debt service, things like that. If we're victorious at the Court of Appeals and that's appealed up to the Supreme Court, we anticipate 18 months or more of delay, which would be over $10.9 million. So in the interim, we are exploring every available legal option, including now the legislative option of an SP. That's why we're here today. And now I'm going to turn the floor over to the architect, Jonathan Cardello. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Cardello, Cube 3, 111 Southwest 3rd Street, Miami, Florida. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here in your city, and I love coming here and just experiencing your culture. We're going to show you a video today. I think it's one of the best ways to get a feeling for what the project is, and I will just narrate as we go through it and describe what the project is. Uh-oh.
Our Planning Commission retreat.
We need to have a retreat.
All right, so here you are. We're looking at the project as we come up 3rd Avenue, and this is towards the drop-off as you come up the street. As you can see, as we come past this point, we're walking through the building, and you're going to come towards 2nd Avenue. And as you turn to the left here, you're going to see the open public space that the buildings create. And the two towers were designed so that they splay apart with the more diamond-shaped building in the middle, with open space that basically continues along the whole length of 2nd Avenue. Here we are coming up 3rd 3rd Avenue into the drop-off zone, and we're going to walk into the park now between the buildings. And one of the most important parts of this project is the connectivity for pedestrians and also the continuity of retail and restaurant spaces around the entire base of the building. Now we're walking down through the park. You can see the elements of the water features, the open park where we can have farmers markets, we can have performances out there, and really give liveliness to the neighborhood and new energy into it. As we look towards the south end, we're now going to turn and we're going to pull out, and you're going to see the composition of the 3 buildings. And I think here you're going to see the fact that the entire 2nd Avenue is essentially park frontage with the hotel in the middle. So that just gives you a little overview of what we're talking about, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Or if the rest of our time.
2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes for rebuttal. All right. Anyone in the room wishing to speak in support? Come on up, Brian. Come on up, Brian.
He's dropping.
Chairman Atkins, thank you. My name is Brian Taylor. I live at 5317 Overton Road, a fellow Creve Hallite. I am here supporting the Congress Group plan. I was a 14-year resident of downtown up until just a number of years ago. I lived at the property now referred to as Bode, formerly Howell Park, immediately to the north of this project. I was also part of the Sobro Master Plan back in 2012. And if I may steal some words from Marty Dickens, who everybody here probably knows fairly well, when the master plan was created, when it was requested, Marty said, "This study is clearly needed given the rapid development in Sobro spurred by the Music City Center and the effects on downtown businesses of the May 2010 flood." Now, Marty was a very intelligent individual. There are a lot of great ideas as part of that master plan, and it created the sub-districts we now have. The challenge is, I don't know that Marty and that group or any of us that sat on that master plan envisioned almost $40 billion of investment in the city, with the lion's share occurring in this area of town or in the downtown area, and or Sobro developing as it has. If you'll remember, KVB, once called Gateway Boulevard, only went to 4th Avenue before the convention center came into being. And since then, it's exploded as far as the area goes. This plan does a lot of great things with all the things that you just saw in the video, including open space. Light shed is taken into consideration. So I'll stop there as I'm running out of time, but I would ask you to support this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? She's back.
My name again is Ann Waddy, 2205 Hampton Avenue, and I'm supporting this proposal because my husband and I own the property at 4th and Peabody, and we've owned this property for 33 years. Before any of these big high-rises were downtown, I think maybe we had the old spaghetti factory as one of our restaurants, but I've never shown up for any to support any big building or anything, except this is so well done because of all the green space and because we aren't plopping a big rectangular building on a rectangular lot. And so I love its creativity, I love the aesthetics, and I would, as a adjacent, almost catty corner property owner, I would respectfully ask for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome. We even welcome attorneys.
Good thing. Mr. Chairman, I did ask for 5 minutes to speak in writing prior to the meeting because I do represent multiple property owners. Is that going to be allowed tonight?
Yes, sir. That's a proper procedure, unlike last time. But thank you. Thank you for following.
The time in between when the vice chair, I heard, we're allowed to speak.
Thank you.
I want to say, first of all, in response to what Mr. Dietz said at the very beginning of the meeting, there was certainly no intention by my client. I represent Steve Snyder, Andrew Decker, and Gregory Bretz, who are owners in the City Lights condominiums. They're the ones who filed the lawsuit. They're the ones who are prosecuting the appeal, as you know. Certainly no intention in our filing this second lawsuit or my co-counsel of the Shackelford law firm in trying to interfere with this body's decision-making or have, I think he called it a backdoor injunction. I don't even know what that is. I've known Mr. Dietz for 40 years. All he had to do is pick up the phone and call me, and I could have given him adequate assurances, but I think it was probably in the interest of the city, perhaps, to come down here and cast a false light on our efforts. However, having said that, we agree that the processes and jurisdiction of this body should not be manipulated by any party to gain advantage in litigation. I was looking at the application for this SP approval, and I think this body should ask itself, why is an SP approval even necessary when a height modification that's identical to this one that's being sought was approved 18 months ago, or I'm sorry, September of 2021. In the letter accompanying the application, the developer says, I think it's a letter to the council person, this is to, quote, codify the current approval of our permit. Well, what that means is to hedge their bets against an adverse decision in the courts. This commission, to my knowledge, and I've researched the records on SP rezoning, has never been asked to do this before that I've been able to see. That's not a reason to grant SP zoning. There's specific reasons for that under the ordinances. None of them say to cover our bets because somebody's challenged us in a lawsuit. The developer has to choose which path they're going to go. DTC, the downtown code, is a zone. SP is a zone. It's not an overlay. So how is it going to be zoned if this matter passes in the council? We would argue that the entitlements, and I despise that word, are under the DTC no longer apply. If it's an SP, SP is its own set of standards. They may be identical if you have the authority to grant them in the first place. But this is simply, but apart from this, if this was not a follow-up on a previous grant of a height modification, the SP zone is clearly not intended to allow this sort of modification of standards for height. Once there's nothing in this language of that ordinance that says there is such an intention, and certainly since the adoption of the downtown code with this comprehensive, detailed standards for height regulation, irrespective of whether you grant modifications, to say that that the SP is the alternative, that's nonsense. You have a matter just after us, item 28, which was granted on the consent agenda, which was a height modification. Why didn't you simply tell them, hey, why don't we just do an SP instead? Because that's not the way you've done business, and you know that. On the merits, on the SP merits, it must be, an SP plan must be consistent with the principles and objectives of the general plan. This property is not adjacent to the Sobro area, period, end of discussion. It is several properties south of that. It is not a transitional property under the Lafayette subdistrict, which would allow, I think, 15 stories. It's a base district height standard of 8 stories. Under your, the staff's in its analysis is making virtue of necessity. It's not about transitioning up because you're nearer to Sobro. It's about transitioning down if you're in a transitional zone to begin with. There's absolutely no authority or support for having treating this as a transitional zone. It's not there. It's not adjacent to Korean Veterans Boulevard. It's not adjacent to Sobro. Let's talk about the passage of time. This matter was first applied for in January of 2021, over about 18 months ago. At that time, this commission could have said, stop, the downtown code needs rewriting, let's do some planning. That's the name of this commission after all. It decided not to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? All right, rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, that was very brief. Very brief. It's okay. Thank you. I just wanted to note that we don't read anything in the downtown code that would prevent us from seeking an SP and following the granting of a overall height modification, which is purely administrative. And we would request that you approve this request for an SP. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. And the councilman is not here, but he did, he texted me and the director. Director, can you share what the councilman said?
He apologized for not being here, but says, I'm quoting, I'm fully supportive of the second and Peabody SP.
Thank you, Director. And also, I think there's a lot of legalese going on. And so, Alex, would you kind of give us the legal background? I know we heard from the director, but Alex, you're recognized.
Just a few pieces. One is, want to reiterate what the director said about the fact that there's no need to, you can consider this, there's no effect on the pending lawsuit. So also, I think the applicant's correct in this sense that there's nothing that prohibits anyone in the code from applying for an SP, even if you already have an approved overall height modification. So I think staff's position would be that if this is approved, that takes it out of the DTC zoning. I'll take that, Lisa. Sorry, I was just saying that if this is approved, the SP is approved, it's staff's position, that would take it away from DTC zoning.
Yeah, yes. I mean, if this is rezoned to SP, then DTC is no longer the zoning. SP is the zoning. There are a couple of other SPs sort of within the confines of the area of the DTC, and their zoning is SP, not DTC.
And I would just point out also that there are different standards for an SP than what you all looked at for OHM. Some of them are similar and they overlap, but I would encourage you to make this as an independent assessment and simply review it on its merits and make that decision.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And Commissioner Blackshear, you want to go first?
Do we, this is to our director, to our Alex, our counsel, maybe to Lisa. So I heard what you just said, that we've done, I guess, SPs in the same area that would, I guess, eliminate the need for DTC. Do we typically, or not typically, have we on several occasions done an SP to have this type of height modification?
So this is not a height modification. This is a rezoning to an SP, which establishes the zoning standards. So an SP is a zoning district in and of itself, and it is an opportunity for a context-sensitive solution that creates its own set of zoning standards. And so this request is not for a height modification, it's for a rezoning to SP. So it sort of negates that overall height modification process if it were to be approved.
Okay. Have we done an SP like this where the SP allowed such a large jump in height that would otherwise be allowed?
Lisa,
Sure, I can answer that question. So there is an SP on 12th and Demumbrian that predates the downtown code just slightly. So it was one that wanted to do a taller building than its existing zoning allowed. So it's within the boundaries of the inner loop, but it's zoned SP because it was advancing a little faster than the downtown code was originally. The other one, to my knowledge, and I'm speaking off the cuff here just a little bit, is 505 Church Street at the corner of 5th and Church, and it is an SP within the boundaries of what we generally consider the downtown code, and I believe it was specifically to allow greater height than that DTC subdistrict allowed by right.
That's really helpful. And so why was it done that way? I know you're just answering off the cuff, but do you remember why it was done in that manner?
That was during the few years when I was not at the planning department. So it's hard for me to speak about it specifically, but if that's important information, if you can give us a few minutes, we might be able to pull up that SP and see what is written perhaps in the bill to let you know kind of the context of that SP.
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful. I don't know if it'll be determinative in anyone's analysis, I guess, but I think it would be helpful to kind of have that background.
Sure, we can look into that.
Okay, I appreciate that. We are looking at this anew. Thank you so much, Alex, for that reminder. This is technically a different analysis. Obviously, it's hard to ignore what we've already heard and seen and been, I guess, given before to read, but it is a new item. I do appreciate now that we've kind of done this before, done an SP in a way before that has allowed a similar type of item to move forward. And I know the analysis would be a little bit different when thinking about a DTC height modification than an SP. I'm not sure that I disagree with the opponent's perspective on this, and I do know that the analysis is a little different, and I said this is a new item, and I recognize this, but I did say this at the last meeting, that I do think reasonable minds can disagree on the appropriateness of this project. It certainly is beautiful. It certainly is going to be something that is going to affect the neighbors in a way that maybe that it could have been contemplated, but probably not have been contemplated when they arrived there. It's definitely something that is different, and I would not have contemplated it to be something of this magnitude in that area. I am interested to hear what other commissioners have to say. And also, to the extent that there's any answer on the 505 history, that'd be great too.
Yeah, I still very much appreciate how I guess I do feel that the design is appropriate, especially for this border. As I remember some of the thoughts I had before about how it hits the street and how it hits the urban fabric of it, being able to really circulate through it, the fly-through actually kind of demonstrated what I had always thought as well. And I think that it's one of the, there's been a lot of developments that don't really try to take a real, I guess, a real circulation path through it that this does. It really creates some great spaces, great green spaces. So very much the same reasons why I thought it was good for this site. I still feel that way. And I'm not thinking about the height as far as this is concerned. As far as the SP, I'm okay with it. I think maybe even if there's normally with the SP, there's always the potential actually to do any more specifics if necessary, but I like this design. I think this is the type of urban design, I think I've mentioned it before, that I wish we could, do this in other areas that have done it, where how it hits the ground and how it integrates into the urban fabric. So I'm still in support of it.
Thank you, Chairman. I think considering the location, it is adjacent to a district which allow unlimited height. So it was directly back up. And so for that prospect, I think additional height is appropriate. And the reason I really like this plan and appreciate the design and thoughtfulness going into plan is it is not typical rectangular glass building happen to be popping up too much in downtown Nashville, but shape of the building and airflow, sound flow, and most of all, added green space and added community benefit. So I think considering all these overall amenity to the community, this is an appropriate plan for the appropriate location. I'm in support.
Thank you, Chair. I echo what my colleague has stated about, we hear a lot about glass rectangular box buildings, or there is a particular view shed that we have lost in our city that people complain about a lot in terms of the massing of the building and the relative quality of the materials, and glazing, I would say, and this project certainly is a great enhancement over, I would say, most buildings that we have seen that have popped up in the downtown and midtown areas in the last few years. So the quality of architecture is great. Obviously, the green space is great. Really did appreciate the video that shows the way the circulation of the site would work. So I'm in support of the proposal.
Again, looking at this from the perspective of an SP, I think it is really appropriate. I understand the opposition. I think, having been a part of the SOBO master plan, but I think any person in their right mind probably would have been called crazy at the time if they would have predicted this type of growth in Nashville. So I think, being reasonable and understanding Nashville's growth has really put us on a trajectory to have buildings of this height. I always say downtowns are the places where cities grow and you recognize their growth. We have a lot of communities and individuals that come in and they push back against the type of density in their communities. And so I always like to ask the question, well, where does it go? And most typically that's in downtown, and we've had several conversations about how we densify our downtown. I also think, if this scale of project was happening in the downtown code as it is now, would it even be this quality, right? The SP is something that looks at and recognizes and creates a specific level of quality. The way that it creates a connectivity through areas that right now are pretty much completely, city blocks that you cannot permeate as a pedestrian, and what this does. And we have to recognize the flow of our city. As we go towards the river, we want to encourage people to move and traverse from areas like the Gulch, our tourism district, and thinking about how we bring people to the convention center. One of the big reasons why the SOBO Master Plan was done was to think about how people we welcome to our city and invited to our city would then move through our city, and we put them in the heart of downtown. And these are the kinds of things that I think you would want people to see at your doorstep. That was a big part of the Riverfront Master Plan, and so I think there's an interwovenness that this brings when you think about it at the pedestrian level. I know we have yet to see what it actually looks like, but I think the feel and the context that we get, I think it's very appropriate, and I think it'll be one of the projects that downtown Nashville becomes most known for. So I'm in support of it. I understand the height is, as a city, we're just going to continue to be uncomfortable with some of the things we've seen, but tall buildings can be beautiful, and there's very short buildings that can be not so beautiful, and I think we have to always keep that in mind.
No comment.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I can't think of anything I want to add. I feel like I'm behind the curve on this, but I'm still listening.
Chairman Wilson.
You're behind the curve?
I am. I've never heard you.
I'm just a simple.
There's not a whole lot I can contribute to this discussion. I agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you, Chair.
I think most of my fellow commissioners have touched on the right points. I think, as is pointed out, directly across the street is unlimited height. It seems actually that this is an appropriate place to think about an SP because we are trying to manage a transition. We know that there's some question about what this entire area should be, the zoning for this entire area and the appropriate height for this entire area. And as we are kind of figuring that out, I think the SP is the appropriate way to do that. And I think it helps to achieve that kind of a transition from the core of the unlimited height to the development potential on this side. So,
Before you make a motion,
Yes.
I want to just have a few comments. Is that
Please.
okay, Vice Chair?
Please.
All right. I just want to say, I appreciate both sides, but I know this is an SP, which is a little bit different from the height verification, the height difference. And I just feel like SPs, over the years, we have done SPs when we first created those to look at projects that have good design. They have good open space. They have good, as Commissioner Henley said, and that costs money, especially in the downtown code area. And it's right across the street from Unlimited Height. I drove by it just because I wanted to be fair, and it seems like the perfect place inside the loop. And I usually don't comment on a lot of cases, but to me, when I drove by it, it seemed like a perfect place for density that we actually need in the city. And so, anyway, Vice Chair, you want to make a motion?
Unless there's any other, I will make a motion that we approve staff's recommendation to approve the project with all conditions.
That's the proper motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Johnson. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? One no?
No.
Oh, two. All right. So we got Commissioner Blackshear and Commissioner Haynes' noes. And that's 8 ayes, 2 noes. All right. And it passes. And so we are now on to item 27. No, wait, we just did item 27.
29.
Item 29. Bad joke. All right. I think Amelia is.
I knew there was a magic key, thank you. Hi, everyone. We've got that last item energy now. My name's Amelia Lewis, and I will be presenting items 29 and 30 together tonight. These are re-subdivisions of lots 90 and 91 of TM Knoll's subdivision. So just a reminder, even though I'm presenting them together, separate motions will need to be made on each item at the end of the presentation. So the request is to create 4 lots. The existing 2 lots are shown on the screen in red. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions based on a finding that the subdivision is providing for harmonious development per section 3-5.2.f of the subdivision regulations. So perhaps the easiest way to describe this is that we have 2021 S-179, which is for the property on the left, and 2021-180, which is the property on the right. The request is with the 2 existing lots to create 2 lots, or a total of 4 lots. I will show the plat, though. So the Two properties are approximately 1 acre each, located on the south side of Massman Avenue. They are currently zoned R8, and that would not be changing with this request. As you can see from the aerial, the primary zoning for the properties surrounding the subject sites is also R8, and it's been primarily established with a mix of single-family and two-family development. So the two plats are shown on the screen. As you can see, the existing lot shape is it's long, rectangular, and we have, they're right up next to each other, basically creating the same pattern across the two lots today. They would be creating 4 total lots, approximately half an acre, each with approximately 50 feet of frontage. The policy on the site is urban neighborhood maintenance. So as you are well aware with our policies and kind of how we break down subdivisions in these policy areas, the subdivision regulations include standards for each specific transect, which allows the policies of the general plan to be followed through subdivisions. So within within the urban neighborhood maintenance policy, the conventional regulations in Chapter 3 are utilized. Oops, I went too fast. Okay. For infill regulations, there are standards for meeting the minimum area of the zoning code, having frontage along a public street, meaning a minimum lot size and lot frontage based on the surrounding properties. These requirements are determined by a compatibility calculation based on the surrounding properties. So we'll run through those and see where the proposal tonight does and does not meet. So each lot exceeds the minimum lot size of the zoning code and has frontage along Massman Avenue. And then, so when we start to break down the compatibility criteria, the first thing that we look at is the lot frontage. So along Massman Avenue, lots created must have a frontage of approximately 66 feet. Today, each lot proposed is approximately 50 feet. And then we move into the lot area analysis. Based on the calculations, the proposed lots must be equal to or greater than 0.49 acres. As proposed, each lot meets this minimum size. So it does not meet the frontage size. It does not meet the frontage requirement, but it does meet the lot size requirement. Looking at street setback, that would typically be applied at the codes department with a building permit and establishing the contextual setback. For lot orientation, all lots are oriented to Massman Avenue, an existing public road. And E, all other metro agencies have recommended approval of the application. And so now on to the longest section. So section F indicates that if the proposed subdivision meets A, B, C, and E of the section but fails to meet subsection D or the compatibility requirements, the Planning Commission may consider whether the subdivision can provide for the harmonious development of the community. So the Commission may specifically consider the development pattern of the area, any unique geographic, topographic, and environmental features, and any other relevant data provided in this presentation. The Commission may also place reasonable conditions as outlined in the subdivision regulations in order to achieve these objectives. The sites are shown on the screen in red, and so as I've mentioned, these are located on the south side of Massman Avenue, and then we start to look at kind of the pattern along the existing street. As you can see, the lots to the west of this are oriented primarily to Stevenson Avenue. So then we start to look internal up against Maxson Avenue on the north side and the south side. So the south side is primarily larger and deeper lots. They have much greater depth than the lots to the north, and currently as existing a greater lot frontage. The proposal for 50-foot lots is fairly consistent with the lot pattern that's on the northern side of the street, where the average over there is 58 feet, and approximately 80% of the lots on the northern side of Maxson have a frontage of 50 feet. Given the surrounding development pattern, staff finds that the proposed subdivision can create for harmonious development, and therefore recommends approval with conditions based on the finding that the subdivision provides harmonious development per section F of 3-5.2. And that recommendation is the same for both 2021 S179 and 2021 S180.
Thank you, Amelia. We appreciate the presentation. And so, commissioners, we're considering these two together, but we'll vote separately at the end. So discussion is on both, but two separate votes. And so we'll open the public hearing. And is the applicant in the room? Come on up. Welcome. And you have 10 minutes. You can save 2 minutes. The 10 for rebuttal.
Probably very nervous. I'm going to do a little reading. Hopefully I can get
We're
my
not
points
mean or
across.
anything. Try not to be.
But thank you for your time to the commission members and your consideration. My name is Joe Haney. I'm a 30-year firefighter with the city of Nashville, and my family has lived in West Nashville, this neighborhood, for over 50 years. And this property has been in the family for quite some time. In 2014, my father-in-law passed away. We received it in a estate. We gained possession of it in 16. In 15, they put the maintaining ordinance in, or not an ordinance, but that calculation in. And we've really struggled getting past that. And really, we're kind of being penalized for having larger lots by that. But it sounds like it's great. You guys are looking at the growth of the area and everything, because it looks like probably 80% of the lots are 50 foot. 3 streets behind us, 3 to the side and everywhere. And really, there's not much more to say. It's pretty much our inheritance, and we're just trying to get fair value for it. Each one of the siblings, there are 4 of us, we're going to get 1 lot apiece to do with as we please, and I plan on building on mine. But thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we'll save 2 minutes for rebuttal. Anyone in the room wishing to speak in support? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Smith. I live at 6207 Robertson Road. I'm a native Nashvilleian. I've lived in this area, in the area of James Robertson for the last 40 years. I am the past. I've been as the president of the James Robertson Neighborhood Association for the last 3 years. We are the group where this property resides. This applicant came to us 2 years ago and said, hey, how can I do this? What will you approve? And he's been, and I say approve, we typically, the developments come to the neighborhoods and talk to us, and we talk about what we'd like to see. Our concern was that we had 2 acres of land that was sitting there that somebody would build 16, 17 houses on or whatever. He came to us and said, look, I'd like to divide this up into 4 lots. We worked with him for almost 2 years. We've been talking back and forth, and he has lived up to they have lived up to what they said. They have proposed to do the 4 lots. Our neighborhood association has said we would accept that. He also went to the point that we said, hey, would you be willing to go to the neighborhood and see what they think? He went door to door and got each one of the neighbors' to agree to him building these lots in the 2-block area north and south, or east and west of his property. So I think he's done his due diligence. I just wanted to say that we as a community at the James Robertson neighborhood do support this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Come on up. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Tavis Kimball. I live at 509 Snyder Avenue, which is just around the corner. And I am here to encourage you to accept this and this division, because as living in the neighborhood, our neighborhood has grown substantially. There's lots of houses, new houses being built, tearing down one house, putting up two. Traffic is already a headache in our neighborhood. And I'm afraid that in the future, under a different administration, under different leaders, that someone will look at, if you deny the division, that someone will look at 2 acres of West Nashville prime property, like Chuck said, and decide they want to put, 16, 20 houses, adding a lot more traffic, a lot more people. And Maxon Avenue is already a very small road. So I think this project here, only adding a total of 8 homes total, is a lot better prospect than the possibility of the future, someone being able to put 16, 20, or whatever they can convince the city council or anyone else to approve. So I hope to encourage you to allow this division to happen and limit how many cars drive through my neighborhood. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? All right, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? All right, seeing none, we don't. Oh, yep, Director.
Just wanted to make sure that the commissioners saw that we did receive a note in opposition from Councilwoman Mary Carolyn Roberts. Lisa attempted to reach out to her today to determine how she would want this hearing handled and to make sure that it was understood that this is a commission action that wouldn't go to her. And I believe that y'all were not able to connect. Is that correct? Okay, but she does not support the proposal.
And the councilman was kind enough to pull it off for her after that correspondence. So thank you. All right. Rebuttal? Come on up.
Well, just abandon everything that I've been working on. But he already mentioned that at one time we got a petition from everybody that lived on Maxon, every resident. And at one time we had a contract on a 10 to 12 house project that would go on that property. And it fell through no fault of our own. And the council person and everybody was on board with it. There was no problem. I have no idea whether there's an issue now. But anyway, I just want you to take that into account if you would, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, and the councilman member is not here. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed on both items. And so discussion, Commissioner Clifton, you haven't gone first yet. We almost made it to Commissioner Haynes, but Commissioner Clifton.
Almost 8 o'clock. Why don't I go first and say that I'd like to move we approve the staff recommendation.
That's a proper motion, and
So we do separately.
but
The 2 items.
yes, so it'd be on the first item.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Yes. So, but I want to make sure that we get to everybody. So this is on item 29. The motion is to approve the staff report, improve item 29. Is that correct?
That was it.
All right, that's a good motion. And is there a second? Second, and then any more discussion? So any more discussion, Councilman?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman, for recognizing me, and thank you to colleagues for agreeing to have this one pulled so we could have opportunity for public hearing, which I thought was very helpful, as well as any discussion from colleagues, fellow commissioners. I understand where Councilmember Roberts is coming from the perspective of the lots. There is a different lot pattern on the south side, the south block face, and so I understand that concern. One of the things, hearing the discussion from the public has actually been helpful, and especially from the neighborhood representative. One of the things for me is, in thinking about it, is not so much the density question, but more about what the pattern of the rhythm and pattern of spacing of houses would be along that street as you segue into the larger lots to the east. And one of the things that kind of I had thought about is whether anyone had contemplated just a more creative layout. So you'd have the same number of units but with a different layout. I think having the aerial that shows that the rear portion of the lots appear to be wooded, that's helpful. And hearing that the community has considered some alternative layouts, and for whatever reasons those didn't go through, I'm glad that was thought through at least. But after having heard from the property owners as well as from the neighbors, which I think is really important, I'm inclined to support the staff recommendation of both items.
Thank you, Councilmember. So we're on discussion. Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Just very quickly, because when we receive a comment from council member, we take it very seriously. So I'm glad, our fellow commissioner and a fellow former council member pull out the application. So I understand Councilwoman Roberts' concern because south side is different pattern, and so I thought about since it is a two parcel owned by same person, so it would be good for if we combine two and then divide by 3. However, if this property was owned by a different person, we need to consider two separately, like we vote on two separate bill. But if you look at the larger area, actually I drove the neighborhood, and it is really established those 50-foot frontage neighborhood. So I think having, even though it does not meet average 60 foot plus, but 50-foot frontage is appropriate in this context. So I just want to make sure Councilwoman's concern was heard, but I think staff recommendation is still spot on.
Thank you, Commissioner. Very good point. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of item 29, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Item 29 is approved. Now we're on item 30 for the vote. Commissioner Clifton, do you want to do another?
I just wanted to do
that. Chairman, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Adopt staff recommendation.
Maybe Commissioner Clifton will make a second. Okay, he'll make a second. That's a proper motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of item 30, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And we are on to other business, which we have already approved 36, 37, 38. Historic. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Oh, Diane, the microphones are hard in here. Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes. I had an opportunity to attend in Cincinnati the National Alliance of Preservation Commission, and had a great presentation by our historic zoning administrator, Robin Ziegler, about our 2nd Avenue fire, and afterwards what we did as a community and approved. So it was a great presentation. And one thing I would like to share is one of the workshops there was Commission Gone Wild. And apparently some historic zoning commission goes like, well, I don't like the plan. I don't feel it. So they deny like that. So in that note, I think, Planning Commission as well as Historic Zoning Commission and of course Park Commission, we are represented by capable our legal counsel and our administrator and staff gives us really great report, so we can rely on their professional expertise. So I thought we, as Nashville and every single commission, are doing really great job, and I would like to renew my appreciation to every single staff members as well.
That's a nice comment, and it's the truth. All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Haynes, Parks.
Am I on? We had a Parks Board retreat recently where we got to tour great parks, and we toured the Centennial Arts Center, Old Hickory Community Center, Smith Springs Park, the Centennial Sportsplex, and Shelby Bottoms. And we got to meet all the staff. If you haven't been to those parts of the city, you need to go. We've got great park staff that serve our city, much like our planning staff. So I was very impressed that day.
Excellent. Executive Committee report. Vice Chair, I don't think we have anything. Okay. Next is the Director's report.
Thank you. So if you can bear with me a little bit longer, I do have a couple of, one meaty item and then a piece of good news. We'll start with that first. So on the East Bank, we're making a lot of great progress on the vision document, and hopefully you will be able to join me in the office at some point over the next week to talk about our progress individually. It's a big enough plan that we felt like it warranted that level of briefing. Our goal is to release draft exhibits for community feedback over the next several weeks. We've been doing that throughout the visioning work, and so this will just be an iteration of that progress. And then we would like to bring the vision document before you for review, aiming for either the second meeting in August or the first in September. And we're just really, I'm incredibly proud of the work that's been done and just appreciate your support. The second item I wanted to talk to you about is a project. Joni, if you want to go ahead and pull it up. On Hillsborough Road that has been approved administratively. So I've already approved the project, but it's a large enough and a significant enough project that I wanted to make you aware of it. And I just have a couple of points before Joni walks through a very brief presentation. First, again, this is an informational presentation only. I approved a final site plan for this project on Hillsborough Road, and so you're not expected to vote here. You've delegated that final site plan reviews to planning staff, and so you typically don't see these. So we do have a short presentation, and I hope you'll focus as you're hearing this on a couple of key points. Again, you're not voting, so just put your kind of big picture commission hat on if you would. First, know that there's a UDO, an urban design overlay, that governs this property. It's one of the oldest UDOs that we have in the city. I think that when the UDO was approved, and Joni will talk about that, it was appropriate for its time. It took steps around pedestrian activity and the like that I know were really important those years ago, but I would argue that today it does not meet the urban design standards that we would expect for a UDO if you look at more recent UDOs. And so we have previously attempted as staff to update this UDO, but we weren't successful. We were not able to reach agreement between the community and the property owners. That happens sometimes. I know you all think we're just always so successful, but anyway, that does happen. But we have made attempts to address this. There have been several lawsuits, and in each instance, the UDO was upheld as the governing standard, and so it is the zoning standard that we need to review projects within. We found that this application meets the UDO, and therefore I approved it. But in fact, I do want to note that the applicant made improvements beyond the standards at our request. And so we weren't really in a great position, candidly, to be pushing for some adjustments. We did. They acquiesced, but I would say they didn't meet all of the changes that we would recommend. And that's why I do think that it's important for us to go ahead again and revisit this UDO. There are other properties that I think we want to make sure that we take another attempt at addressing some of the standards, and Joni's going to talk about that. The reason I I wanted to bring this to you in this forum is, one, it's a big project. You may hear about it. It does meet the UDO standards. I wanted to reassure you that we underwent that review. But I also want to say, in this forum, from a transparency perspective, that an update to the UDO is the only way that we're going to be able to accomplish some of the basic improvements that I think we would want today. And so with that, I'll ask Joni just to acquaint you with the project, and we can ask, you can ask any questions at that time. So thank you so much for staying a bit longer for this, Chair.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm happy to not be saying good morning to you, but good evening, commissioners. I'm Joanne Williams with the Planning Department, and I'll be giving you an overview of this property and the project that was approved and the UDO in general. So I think you can see a blue dotted outline that shows you the properties that are within the Green Hills UDO. It does include properties along Hillsborough Road, Richard Jones Road, Abbott Martin Road, but as you can see here, it does not include the majority of the Green Hills Mall or the high school, but does include the majority of commercial properties and what we know as the Green Hills Community Center. Lucy mentioned there have been legal cases related to properties in this UDO. Nonetheless, the regulations that have been in place since the adoption of the UDO in 2002 still stand. The UDO has been amended 5 times, you see here for very specific reasons, most recently in 2009. The recently approved site plan is located on the east side of Hillsborough Road, just south of Warfield Drive. You can see the properties outlined here in red. The project complies with all the standards of the UDO and base zoning. The project, the proposed building is 22 stories with 264 residential units, retail and restaurant, and above-grade parking. As I mentioned, the project does comply with the regulations of the UDO and base zoning. This includes regulations that address height, build-to zone, floor area ratio, architectural standards, parking, and landscaping, and I'll walk through some of those briefly. Here is a closer view of the site plan with Hillsborough Road to the left of the screen. On the screen, you'll see a rendering of the project as seen from Hillsborough Road. There's active commercial space along the ground floor, above-grade parking, above that active retail space, and then the residential units on the upper floors. Here are a few additional views. On the left is a view from the north, and on the right is a view of the southern facade. The UDO regulates height in 2 ways. The red line shows you how height is regulated. I'm going to talk through those pieces briefly. First, a maximum height is allowed at the street, in this case, Hillsborough Road. Second, additional height is allowed with 2 requirements. First, that all floor space above the maximum height is bonus height, or is bonus space used from the incentives within the UDO. And second, that each additional story above the maximum height at the street is set back at least 10 feet from the floor below it. So for example, 2 additional floors would need to be set back at least 20 feet, so 10 feet for each floor. So it creates what we traditionally call a height control plane, just regulated slightly differently in this UDO. Related to this project specifically, as Lucy mentioned, staff has suggested improvements beyond the UDO regulations, and the applicant has agreed to increasing glazing on the tower form, fully cladding the garage on all facades, and adding a second floor exterior space that partially screens the garage from view on the second level. This project does comply with all applicable zoning and has been reviewed by other Metro departments for compliance, as are all final site plans within UDOs. So you can see here the other Metro departments that have looked at this project for compliance with their standards. Additionally, staff believes the UDO to be outdated. when we consider the urban design expectations in 2022, a full 20 years after this UDO was originally adopted. For instance, EFIS is allowed as a primary building facade above the ground floor. It's prohibited on the ground floor, but EFIS is allowed on upper levels within the UDO. Additionally, the massing requirements of the UDO do not require a transition to the lower scaled properties behind. In fact, it places the tallest elements adjacent to the lower scaled neighborhoods behind. This is in direct conflict with what we typically think of as good urban design practice in 2022. Also, the UDO has no requirements for screening above grade parking. None. Not cladding, not active use, nothing. This concludes our presentation about this project and the UDO. Very brief.
Thank you, and I appreciate the team bringing this. I foresee a workshop, so be ready for a workshop, and we can discuss it more, but obviously there's some things that can be improved. Building looks nice, but, you know, there can be some improvements and some modernization. So, and our favorite architect has a comment. Hold on, Director. We'll get back to you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. I think you saw the image. Forgive me, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good.
We would want to focus, I think, our review on Hillsborough, where we see, I think there are other portions of the UDO that aren't particularly problematic, and so I think we would want to focus just on Hillsborough and the relationship of the street and the adjacent neighborhood. Thank you for letting me get that on the record.
Thank you, Director, for the clarification.
I applaud you guys because you, the project, you know, you worked to get something good out of it, but just on record, I think that a lot of people wonder, why is it like this on Hillsborough and in Green Hills, and like, why has this been forgotten? And so I appreciate you continuing to push for it. I do think it's interesting that it has, that there's so much opposition to it. So definitely I would, you know, like you said, a workshop, but continue to push for change there.
Yep.
What is EFIS?
Stucco? I mean, like.
So EFIS is a material that has recently been not included on the list of allowed materials downtown. The building that Councilman Withers was referring to earlier that so many people are upset about downtown at the what do you call it? It's the moment, yes, the terminus of 65 is almost entirely EFIS. And the reason that the building presents so poorly, and I've shared that with the property owner, so I don't mind saying it publicly, it is in part because of the material is just not been balanced with the glazing correctly. Joni, anything? Or Commissioner Tibbs, you're...
Have you heard of Drive It?
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar, Drive It? No? Okay.
It's like stucco.
Never mind.
Okay, thank you.
Substandard crap.
Okay.
Disregard that.
Leaving your mic off.
All right.
Okay.
And with that,
thank you. That concludes my report, and I appreciate we'll schedule an update to go through a work session. And Councilman Pulley, I should say, was not able to be here tonight, but I've been talking with him, and I think he's open to, he cares and wants to try to figure out a good path forward. Thank you.
Good. Excellent. Councilman, legislative update?
Thank you, Chair. Just really briefly wanted to thank staff who've been coming out to District 32, Councilmember Joy Stiles has been having community meetings looking for the future of the Global Mall, which Metro did acquire, so it's a big Metro investment, but I know that she appreciates staff coming out. I've been able to join a couple of those meetings. Folks are really excited. A lot of different ideas, but folks are really excited about the future of that property again, and I know everyone is really anxious to see who was awarded to do some of that creative work through the procurement process. But just wanted to thank staff for spending a lot of time in Southeast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.